Titanium in my shoulders. Man, fearless, baby, fearless.
Well, time's great for football, but I know when it feels this right. We're gonna kick back and relax, watching football on a Friday night. It's Friday, and we're gonna be hard to take. It's Friday, from coast to coast, the sea of Dallas, Kennedy's game. Well, we're all pumped up to party, and we're ready for it all. Come on, get back, relax, like a Friday night football, boys, we'll be back. See if that football games up the grass. It's Friday night football night.
Well, this one basically boils down to the team that has scored the most points, the BC Lions, against the team that has allowed the fewest, the Argonauts. It's game number 2 of our Wendy's Friday Night Football doubleheader. Hi, everybody. Dave Randorf, Jock Climby, Chris Schultz. Sit back, get comfy. Hope you got lots of snacks, lots of beverages, because we think this one is going to be a good one. The storyline heading into this one is basically the Argos are now in a spot that the Lions have already gone through. Just like the Lions, they lose their experienced #1 quarterback and have to turn to their relatively inexperienced #2 guy. But Michael Bishop turned heads across the league last week with a very strong performance against Winnipeg. There were a lot of doubters. Even Michael Clemens admitted some guys on his own team had doubts. He put that all to rest, and now he's going to try and back it up with another solid effort tonight. We know Casey Printers can back it up. He's been averaging about 300 yards through the air since he's been the starter, but now Bishop's got to do it.
Yeah, David, there's a lot of similarities actually between those guys, starting with the fact that they're both taken over from veteran quarterbacks. But, you know, when you watch the way these guys move, it's uncanny how they have similar styles. And it's going to focus on the way they drop back, the way they get out of the pocket, and the way they run with the football, and are both able to throw on the run. Here's Printers a couple weeks ago against Hamilton, making it happen. They're both about 6'1", 6'2", about the same size, and they can both throw a ball through a brick wall. And here we're going to see, here's Bishop, and watch the way he escapes. Printers does that all the time as well. Throws on the run, very smooth. The difference is that, well, Casey Printers, first of all, is 5 years younger, but, you know, Casey Printers actually plays with a lot more maturity and experience. He seems to see the field better, Chris.
Yeah.
So Bishop obviously hasn't had the playing time this year.
Nope.
Now he's got to have 2 games in a row. Let's see if he can put that together.
You know, their physical skills are remarkably similar, but Casey Printers has already passed one test that Michael Bishop has yet to pass, and that's to go against a defense where that defensive system, that team, has an entire game film against you. And I think the strength of Calgary right now is the defensive line. Right now, the Muktabenyos, Tyrone Williams, Dante Booker, Brett Johnson, those 4 guys can benefit from knowing exactly how Michael Bishop moves, how he doesn't move, what he does in pressure situations. And it's been a nice transition on the defensive line for these Lions, because slowly but surely, Wally Buono is starting to get the same type of defensive lineman that he had previously when he had all that success with the Calgary Stampeders. Remember the Will Johnson, Stu Lairds, the Streko Zizakovics, the Harold Hasselbecks? Those guys were all 6'4", 6'5", powerful people on the defensive line. He's getting that with the BC Lions. That defensive line can make a big difference tonight, Dave.
Yeah, and it's good that you mentioned Brent Johnson. He's been a big story in BC. And on the other side, I know you like Noah Cantor for Toronto, the former Lion.
Yes.
Tied for the league lead in sacks coming into this week with 7, along with Tom Canada of Winnipeg. And speaking of Canadians, we'll get to the Rona poll question in just a second. Here are the starting quarterbacks brought to you by Wendy's. Michael Bishop gets the start. Casey Printers, of course, for the Lions. Now, speaking of Canadian guys, the Rona poll question goes like this. We want to know what you think. Log on to tsn.ca at the halfway point of the season. Who do you think the top Canadian is so far in the league? Ben Cahoon, the 2-time most outstanding Canadian player. Kevin Ivan, starter for the first time in Toronto. Or Jason Claremont of the BC Lions. Log on, let us know.
two strong-armed young quarterbacks in a shootout in Vancouver tonight. The Lions and the Argos both have identical 6-3 records.
Lions looking to tie a club record if they win tonight. It would be 6 in a row for them. The Argos looking to win their 6th in their last 7th game. The Lions have scored more points than any team in the league so far. The Argos have the stingiest defense. Something has to give.
BC and Toronto. It's a rematch of a semifinal from last year.
Art Gonzalez of Calgary, you could win a 50-inch Prima Plasma TV if a kickoff is returned for a touchdown in tonight's game, thanks to Safeway's Touchdown and Win promotion. And if a second kickoff is returned in the game, you could win $1 million. Let's go.
We're ready in Vancouver. The best crowd of the year is indoors at BC Place tonight for the Argonauts and the Lions. No blackout this evening, so we welcome fans in Vancouver and all over British Columbia tonight. The Argos and the Lions, two very solid football teams, both with 6 wins in 9 games.
Mike Clements has coached 40 games in the regular season in CFL. He has 20 wins, 20 losses, but most importantly, he has his team off to a 6-3 halfway point of the CFL season in 2004.
Wally Buono's BC boys got off to a sluggish start lately. Smooth sailing for this BC bunch. Several standout newcomers leading the way. Wally has the touch. The Lions go for 6 in a row on home turf in BC tonight. Noel Prefontaine set to kick it off for the Argonauts. And that's Aaron Lockett. Deep for the BC Lions. Coming down to Antonio Warren. On the seam, and Warren is out near the 40-yard line. KC Printers felt the heat last week in Calgary, and he can expect more of that tonight from this Toronto defense. Antonio Warren back in the BC backfield. He was just rounding into form when he sat out 2 games because of injury. And up front for the Lions, Freddie Moore has stepped in and done a solid job at left tackle for the Lions so far in 2004. Tonight's starting lineup brought to you by Tums. Tums tackles heartburn fast. Lions from the 39. Antonio Warren. And he's across the 45 to about the 46. Stopped by Eric England.
Argonauts defense. One of the newcomers up there, the rookie, Jonathan Brown. May not have the stats as a possible nominee for Rookie of the Year. You watch what Jonathan Brown does, and you will put him in that category. And when you're looking at the secondary, when you face the BC Lions, it's who has to cover G. Roy Simon. That assignment to Kenny Wheaton tonight.
Warren has a gain of 7. This is 2nd and 3, and he'll get the first down across the 50-yard line. Warren was playing well when he went down with the injury, and he's happy to be back in the lineup.
He really
touchdowns.
Really was hitting his form in his last 2 games before he was hurt. One against the Montreal Alouettes. He was averaging 103 yards in those 2 games. So it was really the first time that the BC Lions had started to establish a running game. Then he went down with a calf injury and has missed a couple.
Here the Lions first down shy of center field. And they go to Warren again. Back to back to back. He thought he might have been able to break it for a little more. He stopped at the 50, and we'll see where they spot it exactly.
With a calf injury, you always wonder about how he can accelerate and push off that leg, and it looks fine right now because Warren's acceleration is there.
Why is he so far ahead over here then? Shouldn't be on 6 feet ahead. He's about a yard.
It'll be 2nd down and 1 to go for the Lions as Warren picks up another 9. Tight end formation. KC Printers goes to Warren, and we'll see where they spot the ball. The Argonauts are waiting. Michael O'Shea was right in the middle of things there. Noah Cantor as well.
Looked like KC Printers audibled the direction of the play at the line of scrimmage, and then actually went right into the teeth of it. Good play by Michael O'Shea to step up and make a nice tackle and make this as close as it is. Story of the year for the BC Lions is right there. Number 1, KC Printers, who faced really his first adversity last week in his 6th start versus the Calgary Stampeders. Boy, he was cruising along, and then the Stampeders played him tough.
Sacked him 5 times at McMahon Stadium and had the Lions on the ropes for a while, but BC bounced back to win that 5th game in a row.
But he just added to what has been a great story here in BC, because he was knocked out of the game with a mild concussion and then got himself back in, fought through that, and ended up getting the win for the Lions.
This is 3rd and inches for BC, and Casey Printers himself. Penalty flags fly,
which is almost always offside on defense. But I talked to Printers before this game about last week's game in Calgary. He said, yeah, I've been hit a bunch, but
Offside. Toronto 92.
I've been hit a bunch, but I was knocked out of that game in Calgary for the 2nd time with a 2nd mild concussion. And Printers told me, he said, I took myself out because I was wobbly, I was dizzy and disoriented. Didn't think I gave my team a chance to win, so I took myself out. I mean, this guy just has all the right answers.
He is a quick study, no question about that. Here's the Lions' 1st down from the shotgun. It's Printers with time to throw. Now the pocket evaporates, and Printers sprints to his right, throwing on the run. And the target was Ryan Thelwell. He was out of bounds.
One thing the Calgary Stampeders did against Casey Printers, which I won't be surprised to see Toronto do some, is try and keep him in the pocket. Make him a pocket passer and see if he can complete 9-10 passes in a row from the pocket, not out in the run. Rich Stubler saw that film versus the Calgary Stampeders, and I know he's going to want to try and contain Casey Printers.
Printers looks at 2nd and 10. Just inside the Toronto 45. Steps up. Looking for Simon. He's gone. G-Roy Simon one more time.
Boy, talk about great stories. G-Roy Simon is on a record-breaking pace catching the football. Watch Casey Printers in his comfort zone outside of the pocket. This is why the Stampeders wanted to hem him in, because once he gets outside of Jonathan Brown, now he's in his comfort zone. He loves throwing on the run. That's how he's had his success in 7 starts now in the CFL, and he finds his #1 target once more.
Just the 5th passing touchdown allowed by this Toronto Argonaut defense. So quickly, it's 7-0 for the BC Lions. G-Roy Simon into the end zone again. That's his 14th touchdown.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. Wendy's, it's better here. By Molson Canadian, I am Canadian. By Rona, the how-to people. And by Rogers, your world right now.
G-Roy Simon has his 11th touchdown of the season. The Lions have the lead at 7-0. And Tony Miles returns for the Argonauts. Spinning to about the 39-yard line, met there by Kelly Lockbaum.
G-Roy Simon going full speed off the start of this play is really what creates the problem for Adrian Smith. Watch how Simon uses his speed and then turns out. What Adrian Smith will do is turn his hips downfield. Because of that speed, and he's respecting of G-Roy Simon. So he turns his hip, Simon goes out, now Casey Printers starts to scramble, Simon goes deep, and as Adrian Smith is trying to recover on the first route, he's beaten on the second.
He is sneaky fast, no doubt about that. So here are the Argonauts. First down, Miles can't sell it. Michael Bishop stepped in for Damon Allen and won Player of the Week honors last week. Tony Miles still rates as the Argos' most important receiver. He will not drop many. And up front, when you look at this Argonaut offensive line, Chad Folk has centered for 18 quarterbacks in his 7 years as an Argonaut. Argos on 2nd and 10. Bishop has a cannon for an arm. And he was looking for R.J. Soward, who had a touchdown last week.
And was open on that sideline, and if not for the rush on Michael Bishop, he probably completes a big one here. But he's going to be under pressure and can't throw this pattern, which takes a long time to develop, from R.J. Soward on the outside, but you're going to see at the end of this play, Sauer just to the right of your screen. Look, he's open on that sideline.
Let's keep those hands here now.
Noel Prefontaine standing back inside his 25. Aaron Lockett, the lone deep returner for the Lions. Lockett put a couple on the ground last week and has about 3 yards on the return there after a 43-yard punt with a penalty flag down. BC Lions have the lead in the football out around midfield. Here's Perry Solkowski on the sideline.
John, trying to find a chink in Casey Printer's armor. I went to his older brother yesterday, said, is there anything we should know? He said, no, it's all right there, but people probably don't realize how hard my brother works with film. And Casey said this week has been great. It's been like a sponge because he's been talking to not only the defensive coordinators and going after the films, but the fact that a lot of BC Lions played for Rich Stubler, the mastermind of the Argos defense. He said, oh, it's been a fun week. I'm excited to see what I've learned. So far, so good, I would say.
Here's Casey Printers set up at the 51 as a result of a penalty against the Argonauts. Rough play on the return, a 2-yard pickup there.
You know what, and what Perry talks about is the difference between being a great player athletically with potential and becoming just a great all-around player and a professional. And that's what the study does for you, especially at the quarterback position. And that's exactly what I've heard, is that he's the first one in the office with the coaches. Casey Printers is watching as much film as they are.
And he has already tossed his 21st touchdown of the season to give the Lions that 7-0 lead here tonight. Printers stands in, fires on the run. He's got Thelwell. First down, Lions inside the Argonaut 40. Kenny Wheaton over to make the tackle.
That's the one thing that this receiving corps for the BC Lions knows, is that if they don't see the football on their first initial pattern when they're running and they make their break, to keep working hard, because Printers will buy himself some time, and if you present a target, he'll find you. And this is the composure we see from Casey Printers, who, even though he had Michael O'Shea bearing down on him, still threw a strike.
And a 19-yard gain. Warren again, and he's been active so far tonight. Michael Fletcher got to Antonio Warren that time.
Well, this is the first time I think I've ever seen this season the Argonaut defense reeling a little bit. And this is a defense that has been as stingy as they come in the CFL. Just 7 touchdowns against, 4 through the air, now 5, including that one from Simon already. And all of a sudden they're on their heels again. And this is something we haven't seen from the Argos on defense.
Second and 7, more heat, and Printers is down. Sacked 5 times by the Stampeders last week, and the Argos get to him here early. Kevin Iben leading the charge. BC boy out of Delta getting to the BC quarterback this time.
Well, this is what you have to do with them. You have to hem them in. One guy is not going to catch Casey Printers on his own. So what do? They send Bonner on the edge, and Bonner's the key, because when he comes off the edge and widens, he doesn't allow Printers to escape wide, and he waits for Kevin Iben to come and clean him up on the sack.
Keep the hands in, boys.
O'Mahony is in on 3rd down, Lions. So the Argo defense bent a little bit on that sequence. But we'll get the ball back. However, O'Mahony will pin them inside the 15-yard line. No play for Tony Miles on a 37-yard punt.
Well, Michael Bishop was 2-0 in his first series, but Michael Bishop is coming off a game where he answered a very important question for the head coach, Mike Clemens. And that question was, can you win with Michael Bishop? And they beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with Michael Bishop, who threw for 300.
And Bishop played very well last week against the Bombers. He's in a little tougher against this defense, no question about it. John Avery gets his first call of the night, and he's got about 4 yards.
We're going to watch this matchup. Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. Barron Simpson and John Avery. They played against each each other in college. They play against each other here tonight, and they're both looking forward to the opportunity. We'll watch Barron Simpson. And in the secondary, since the arrival of Jason Crum as the starter at safety has solidified this secondary in a big way. He already has an interception. He had that last week versus Calgary.
Superb potential for Jason Crum. He's been given a chance, and he has responded for the Lions. Bishop brings it down. Now looks to escape, throwing on the run, and on the far side, no catch. So quickly, the Argonauts will kick it away. Mark Lester was the intended target, and Dante Booker was supplying some of the pressure there.
A couple of series, and already the Booker and the defensive line for the BC Lions are establishing that line of scrimmage right now. Early on in this game, they're winning that battle. Bishop has been on the run in 2 series in a row and never been able to set up in that pocket or even roll with any time to throw.
And look at the battle for field position being won by the Lions as well, as Lockett stands out right at midfield with Prefontaine in the end zone, digs out a low snap, gets away a pretty good kick. Lockett chased back inside the 45, and Aaron Lockett makes it back to the 50-yard line. Straczynski leading the tacklers there and limiting the return to 7. BC quarterback Casey Printers, just 23. He had a rough ride last week in Calgary against the Stampeders. Sacked 5 times in total.
And took a whole bunch of hits on top of the sacks. Here's one of the sacks. Was up there, he had a sore hand. He had a mild concussion twice. This from Scott Coe right there. That's where he hit his head onto the turf. And then late in the game, injured himself in the end zone. Had that been a Friday night, Printers may have been the gladiator.
On first down, Printers has Claremont, and Claremont fights his way for a first down. He gets the 50-yard line. Kevin Ivan, Delta, British Columbia, made the tackle.
Because Printers up until that game versus Calgary was really cruising through the league. I mean, he had played Edmonton, Winnipeg, Montreal, Ottawa, Hamilton. And those were his starts prior to that Calgary game, and was really standing in that pocket, throwing strikes, putting up unbelievable numbers, and on pace for an outstanding player season. And then faced Calgary, and in regulation, the Lions put up 18 points, which is way below their season average.
Looking back to that Hamilton game when he was so spectacular and the player of the week for the second time, 20 of 22 and 4 touchdown passes against the Tiger Cats. 90% completion average for Printers in that one. Here are the Lions with another first down. Nice play action fake. And Printers has Lyle Green squirting out of the backfield. He's across the 35.
This is Printers just checking down. He had a couple of open receivers, but he realized his time in the pocket was coming to an end. He had G-Roy Simon on a layered pattern across the middle, but he didn't have time to set up for that one. The pocket started to collapse on him. Eric England was there, Bonner off the edge, so Lyle Green becomes the checkoff man to dump the football to.
And the little dump pass nets the Lions 15 yards. And this first down at the Toronto 35. Pitch to the other side. Antonio Warren breaks the tackle, and it takes 2 Argos to drag him down inside the 25. Orlando Steinauer had to come up and help with the tackle.
John, I think when you talk Casey Printers, when he played in that first game of the year versus Hamilton, G-Roy Simon became the #1 target. He threw for 190, and what Printers realized then is that he had a special player out there. I think that's when they started to establish their relationship, and why G-Roy Simon is already over 1,000 yards at the midway point and on pace for a record-breaking season. And there's great balance in that core. You've got Jason Claremont coming out as a tight end.
Halfway to 1,000 for Claremont. Here's Printers buying a little extra time. The end zone toss. And no catch for Simon, who was in behind the cover but ran out of room in the Argonaut end zone.
Toronto Argonauts are awful tough when you get down in this end of the field. And even when you're facing G-Roy Simon, what Mike Clemens wants this defense to do, he knows that Simon and Printers are going to hook up. They already have once tonight. He wants to bend and not break against them. They're pretty good in the red zone.
Lions look at 2nd and 10. Here comes the charge. Printers, the toss. Touchdown. Frank Cutolo got in behind the cover, and Casey Printers is wonky. A flag is down. The touchdown will stand, and they'll penalize the Argonauts after the fact. It's Jonathan Brown coming through. Cutolo in the end zone for the touchdown, and Printers pays again.
Jonathan Brown is coming around on a stunt. And I asked the question early, can Printers be a pocket passer? Watch how Jonathan Brown will come around. Now Printers standing in that pocket, knows he's going to get hit. And look at this throw to Frank Cutolo in the back of the end zone as he hits that stride right at that back line. That's what the flag was. But a great throw from the pocket for Casey Printers.
2 touchdown tosses for Casey Printers so far. And there's still half a quarter to go. Half of the opening quarter. Frank Cutolo has his 7th touchdown reception of the season. Casey Printers has his 22nd touchdown throw. And the Lions have a 14-0 lead.
The more that Casey Printers runs around, the more that he sometimes, and I'll even go as far as to embarrass oncoming defensive linemen, the more he will take some of these late hits, as Jonathan Brown wants to, even though he knows he's a little late, wants to just let his presence be known. He just wants to say, hey, Casey, I'm here. He gets a penalty for it, but he's trying to make a statement. Pinner said, go ahead, you can be there all you want. I'm throwing a touchdown pass.
Let's see if the Argonauts can respond on special teams. Tony Miles across the 25 and short of the 30. Javier Glatz to make the tackle there. So the Lions have the 14-0 advantage. 4:14 to go in the opening quarter.
Here's a big difference between tonight and last week for Michael Bishop. Last week he was playing against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that have had their problems on offense, and he'd had time to work himself into that game. Tonight, now he's down by 14 in a heartbeat, has to battle back.
And he has to respond in a hurry. Bishop under heat, and he got it away short of the 40-yard line. It'll be enough for a first down.
Well, that's some kind of throw. I mean, it doesn't look like one of these spectacular touchdown passes to Frank Cutolo. But watch how Michael Bishop is running away from pressure and kind of over his shoulder. For the quarterback, that kind of mechanics is awful tough unless you have a cannon like Michael Bishop.
Robert Baker ran a nice pattern there. He'll have the first down. From the Argo 39. Avery is wrapped up. Deshaun Austin was there and waiting for John Avery.
The reason that Barron Simpson, who you know is going to be locked in to John Avery as he goes in this direction, can take his time is because he knows Deshaun Austin is coming from the left of your screen and has containment. So now Barron Simpson just slides over. He waits. Deshaun Austin makes a play in the backfield before he can get there.
Loss of 5. So the Lions have forced the Argonauts into a 2nd and 15. Bishop has to put it up. Has time to look deep. Nothing open. He takes off, and he'll get the first down. Bishop out across the 50, and Austin was over to make the tackle there. It opened up.
See how Michael Bishop ran on that play. He looked an awful lot like another quarterback we've enjoyed watching this year on the other sideline, Casey Printers. And interestingly enough, Casey Printers, when he was a senior in high school, one of his idols was Michael Bishop when he was at Kansas State. Michael Bishop played against Baylor, and he watched that game, and Printers said, man, I love this guy.
On first down, Bishop has that one deflected.
And I asked Michael Bishop about it, and both quarterbacks, as a matter of fact, and he said, yeah, he said, I watched Casey Printers, I watched Bishop, and Bishop, he had this great athletic ability, could run, and I love the way he took control of the game and made a couple of blocks in the open field for running backs, and I kind of modeled my game after him. And now Printers putting on a show in the CFL, and Bishop's working his way into it.
And they're similar in stature as well. Soward made the catch, and it'll be a first down for the Argonauts. At the 45 of the BC Lions, R.J. Soward.
See what Soward did there? He caught the ball with his hands. And that's the difference. That's sometimes you let the ball as a receiver get into your shoulder pad area. That's the problem. But watch how Soward, with confidence, stabs that pigskin. He sticks a fork in it, like my coach used to say. Stick a fork in that pigskin.
The gain is 11, and the Argonauts continue this drive. John Avery, halfway to a first down. He's near the 40 and stopped there. Avery picked up 92 yards last week. 14 carries for 73 and 3 receptions for 19. That was his game against the Blue Bombers.
Well, we seem like we say this week in and week out that his knee is getting better and improving every game. And sooner or later, John Avery is going to have that breakout game, that 150, 200-yard game.
They call it a gain of 4, 2nd and 6. Argonauts shotgun. Bishop. There's this out. Lots of coverage deep, and the Lions come up with the interception. Washington in the end zone. Mark Lester was the target.
This is just a timing problem for Michael Bishop, who's now thrown 6 interceptions and just 1 touchdown despite the big game. And the timing problem becomes this: when John Avery, who is the #1 target coming out of the backfield, is open now. But he waits, and then he throws, and that allows Mark Washington to come from the backside and get involved. If he lets that ball go right away on time, John Avery has a chance.
3 Lions in the vicinity. Mark Washington has the pick. So time ticks down on the opening quarter. Just 12 seconds to go as the Lions look at first down here. Antonio Warren lost the handle for a split second, got it back.
Second down, you got 1 point.
And 1 second unofficially on the stadium clock here at BC Place. Ryan Thelwell, 1 of 3 receivers to the near side. On 2nd and long, Printers escapes. He won't get away from all of the Argonauts charging there. Antonius Bonner coming through.
Holding 68. DC. Penalty is declined.
Because the Argos declined the penalty, that's the end of the quarter.
And the sack will stand, so the Argonauts have a couple of sacks. The Lions have a couple of touchdowns.
At the quarter, brought to you by Reebok, the only brand that hangs in every CFL locker.
Well, what do you know? A couple of touchdown passes by Casey Printers. He's got 22 already. As Glenn was saying, Schultze, he took a bit of a beating last week against the Calgary Stampeders, and Wally Bono said, you know, sometimes a beating is good for a young quarterback. He'll learn from that. I don't know if Casey agrees, but...
you know what you do? You learn from a beating, and you try not to take the whole thing so seriously. And this is really impressive because, yes, he took a beating last week, and he's going to take a beating again this week. Watch the shot under the chin, and then his head hits the back of turf. Now, what's so important about this? It's a touchdown pass. So whatever bad memories he had about the Calgary game, all gone now. Great job by Printers, taking some adversity and getting a touchdown pass out of it, man.
Yeah, I love the way he checked where the safety was and then put it up over behind the safety. It was beautiful. But, you know, he's working with a lot of weapons. The one guy I really like is Jason Claremont. There's lots of ways to evaluate a receiver, but one is yards after contact. And here you see, this is where the contact happens. He needs to get to the 50 for the first down, and he struggles forward an extra 3 yards when he's got 2 guys making contact with him. Yak yards, yards after contact, Dave, is one of those crucial statistics. What are your yak yards like? Pretty good.
Who was the best guy at Yak Yards besides yourself?
Oh, I wasn't much
Jock?
good at Yak Yards.
Who was the best
Let me
yourself?
see. Ray Elgar is pretty good for what you just saw Claremont do right there. Dragging
And
guys.
Terry Vaughn at Edmonton.
Yes,
Terry
he's the
Vaughn at
best.
Edmonton.
Here are the stats at the quarter for Smirnoff Ice. Who knows where it'll go?
There's one time that the stats do indicate which team is up in the scoreboard. The BC Lions 14 points and 8 first downs. The Argos 0 points, 3 first downs, and controlled the football, the BC Lions, in the first quarter.
Oh, Manny got a charge, got it away. Tony Miles for the Argonauts. Instant field position. He's almost to midfield at the 55 and run out by Derek Lewis. 50-yard punt, 9 on the return. Lions head to the bye week. The next home game, September 18th against the Eskimos. And who knows what might be on the line by then. There's the number for ticket information.
Big crowd here tonight for the BC Lions. In fact, approaching the sellout. In the new configuration of the stadium, they are only selling the lower bowl. So expecting upwards of 30,000 tonight. They're already pre-selling a bunch of tickets for that Edmonton game.
Bishop in trouble. Ball is loose. Lions have it, or do they? Simpson had it momentarily, and the Lions say they retain possession after Simpson had his mitts on it. But maybe not. The Argos got it back. Simpson had his hands on the ball. He was on top of it, and then it squirted free, and St. John ends up with it for the Argos.
Brent Johnson on the top keeps working from the backside, and it's Brent Johnson that, with that hard work as he comes off the edge, keeps fighting, gets pushed long and wide, but then he keeps coming back, and there's the hit that jars the ball loose. Simpson had a crack at it and missed it.
So the Argos look at second and a bunch. Bishop steps up, has Avery, and they get about 10 yards back, but it'll be a third down kicking situation for Toronto. Otis Floyd was over to make the tackle, or at least force Avery out of bounds.
So far, Michael Bishop has been on the dead run. He's already got the skid mark on his helmet. He's been hit a couple of times. He's been hitting the blind side from the backside. That's the worst for a right-handed quarterback. Coming off that backside edge is the toughest because you can't see it coming. He's 3 of 8, but he has just been on the dead fly all game long so far. Credit to that defensive front 4 of the BC Lions. They're winning that battle right now.
He hasn't been sacked yet, while the Argonauts have 2 sacks to their credit. And there'll be no return for Aaron Lockett. There's the Lions start back near their 10. The Grey Cup logo for 2005 unveiled here at BC Place. Tonight, the 93rd Grey Cup game will be played here on November 27th, 2005. And already organizers are excited about the prospect of the Grey Cup coming back to Vancouver.
A different feeling for football in this province, in this city now, as opposed to the last time the Grey Cup was here. And that baby's going to be a sellout in 2005. They've got upwards of 30,000 in here tonight. They're building. Their average is well over 25 this year. Back end of this season is going to see bigger, better crowds for the BC Lions leading into a Grey Cup year. And I would say that baby's almost a certain sellout.
The last time the Grey Cup was here was 1999. Antonio Warren picked up 7. This is 2nd and 3 for the Lions. Warren again. The ball is loose. The Argonauts should have it this time. Or do the Lions scrap to get it back? I think maybe it went back to the Lions. The Argonauts had the loose ball surrounded.
Well, they had about 4 or 5 cracks at it. Antonio Warren, that baby pops out right at the line of scrimmage. Warren's in the backfield here. He takes a jab step, hits up in there, and right there it comes out on the hit from Jonathan Brown. Now, Kevin Iben, Michael Fletcher, they all have a chance at him. Lando Steinauer's in there, and somehow the one BC Lion in that sea of white comes up with it. Antonio Warren goes to check the gloves and the hands and the
Net result, an 11-yard gain for the Lions. Casey Printers stands in. Simon went up and took a big hit on the sideline.
The other thing that's got this city excited about is the play of the BC Lions, how excited they are this season. And in fact, they're looking at tying a Lions record if they can win their 6th in a row tonight. Vic Rapids 77. That year, Jerry Taggy was the quarterback. Don Matthews had Roy DeWalt for a couple of years, 83 and 86, both those years. Greg Mons was Damon Allen. And Wally Buono has Casey Printers and, oh yeah, the other guy, Dave Dickinson, who's coming back soon.
Yes, and he'll be back within a matter of 1, maybe 2 weeks. Here's Printers standing in. Caught from behind. Lost his footing. Found it again. And he's wrapped up and sacked for the 3rd time tonight. 3rd sack for this relentless Argonaut defense on Casey Printers. However, they haven't been able to keep him off the scoreboard.
Well, he's going to make his plays, but you got to keep containing him, and that's the key. This time it's just good hard work from Noah Cantor in the middle, Eric England on the outside on the right, and Jonathan Brown on the inside. A 3-man rush. There's a chance for Jonathan Brown. Now Printers keeps his balance. Cantor keeps working to flush him back the other way, and then he and England land on him. 3-man rush that through just 2nd and 3rd effort, they get it done, and Noah Cantor just adds to his sack totals.
He has 8 on the season. High snap. And not much for O'Mani to do here. Oh, he lost the ball. The Argonauts have a chance. And this time the Argonauts will recover, although they would have ended up with a football anyway on 3rd down.
I think that draws a meeting with Wally Buono.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. He could have given up too rather easily. We're on the West Coast, stadium at BC Place. And on Sunday afternoon, we're off to Edmonton with the Renegades and the Eskimos doing battle on Wendy's CFL Live, 3:30 Eastern Time, the kickoff for that one on Sunday afternoon. Here's the Argos with the best opportunity for Toronto in this one. 3 cracks at it from the 3-yard line after the turnover. Avery bobbles it. Bishop picks it up and lost another 3 yards.
Well, nothing is guaranteed with the way this game is going. A couple of fumbles by the Lions. They finally lose one. Bit of a brain burp from Duncan O'Mani.
That's putting it politely.
And now Bishop with a chance. He gets all messed up at the handoff with John Avery and puts himself in a hole and now has to throw the football on 2nd down.
Argonauts were set up 1st and goal at the 3. Now they look at 2nd and goal from the Lions 7, and it won't be easy getting to the end zone from here. The charge is on. Bishop lets fly. Miles look for it. Great coverage. Deshaun Austin. Just great coverage by the BC Lions secondary.
Always works in combination. The pass rush along with coverage. Mook Tabenyo is the guy involved in the pass rush, and he's the sack leader for the BC Lions. And there's the rush that causes Bishop to go deep and not get a lot on it. And even if he could have, look at the position that Deshaun Austin is in. Deshaun Austin has elevated his game in a big way. Here comes that pressure from Tabenyo.
And the field goal is good by Noel Prefontaine, a short little chip shot from 15 yards. And what looked like an easy 7 ends up a 3-yard pickup for the Argonauts on the 15-yard field goal.
Well, when you're good football teams, it's never a guarantee, although when you saw the brain burp from Duncan O'Mani, who all he had to do was really give up the safety when he had problems with the snap.
Kick it through the end zone.
Or kick it through the back of the end zone, absolutely. Here's that play. This is what sets up the Argonaut chance. High snap, now he's in trouble. Go ahead, give up a safety. It's over. And never try to pitch it, or maybe he just didn't want it.
I don't think he was trying to pitch it to anyone.
Maybe Duncan O'Mani just didn't want it. Anyways, that set up the chance, and his defense, Duncan O'Mahony's defense, bails him out, because that is a win for the BC Lions when you're talking about momentum. To be down in your own end like that and hold them to just 3.
To cough it up on the 3-yard line, an absolute victory for the Lions there. So O'Mahony, who's on a nice little run kicking field goals, will have a few embarrassing moments in the tape session tomorrow, but it may not be quite as bad as it might have been.
Well, and it won't mess with his psyche, knowing his personality. And he has been on a roll, no question.
Aaron Lockett. The Lions have been looking for a return game, and Lockett gets another crack at being the man. Ray Mariu's making the tackle after a 19-yard return. And so Casey Printers heads out again, 5 of 8, 110 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. The touchdowns have looked easy. Other parts of the BC Lion offense have not looked quite so easy, as he has been sacked 3 times.
Well, both defensive lines playing quite well, and they knew the challenges that they faced. Both defensive lines facing athletic quarterbacks that can run. Makes for a long day.
On first down, huge hole opens up. Antonio Warren is definitely in form. Kenny Wheaton made the tackle.
Not surprising that the Lions want to try and attack Toronto's defense along the ground with Antonio Warren. It's a defense in Toronto that ranks 8th versus the run, giving up 112 yards per game, which is basically on the bottom of the league. And they've been great against the pass, and they haven't given up many touchdowns. They've been susceptible to the run.
Warren 11 carries for 68 yards so far. Printers has Warren sliding out of the backfield, and he'll get 5, maybe 6 yards on the reception. Clifford Ivory made the stop.
A lot of talk about KC Printers. If you were to pick the outstanding player right now, if the votes are going to happen right now, who are you taking?
Well, no question, Casey Printers has had a most valuable player season. He would likely get a lot of votes for most outstanding player in the CFL to this point. 2nd and 4, and running this time for Warren is not as easy. He only picks up 1 yard there, so the Lions are into a kicking situation. When you look at the number of touchdown tosses for Casey Printers, 22, including the 2 tonight.
And coming into this week, he also led in rushing touchdowns, and it's an impressive group of running quarterbacks when you look at Damon Allen and Kerry Joseph, Henry Burris in Saskatchewan, and there's Printers with his 6 touchdowns and 6-yard average. Now, a lot of that was happening too before his foot was injured.
Absolutely everything is impressive about this young man. Tony Miles deep for the Argonauts. Toronto trailing 14-3. And this kick is not deep from O'Mahony. 2 hops. And Miles is surrounded, dropped in his tracks at the 15. Leading the way, Otis Floyd.
Before you have to stop at these places, stop at this place. Now get 25% off parts and labor on Monroe Brakes. Canadian Tire. Let's get started.
Argonauts get to start at the 15-yard line with a first down. Trailing 14-3 to the hometown BC Lions. Andre Talbot flanks to the near side. Michael Bishop at the controls. Bishop has Avery sliding out of the backfield. And Kidd is in on the tackle on Avery there. Damon Allen on the sidelines watching again. And thoughts on Mike Clemens, his coach, on the newest quarterback in town.
He's really got a calmness. You can see when he was, a week ago, he was trying to show that he was the leader. right? Now he's comfortable with the fact that he is the leader, and he really has a quiet spirit this week, and sort of the reins have been now given to him, and has really been humble in his approach. So it's neat to see. Be interesting how he responds tonight. He needs to continue to allow the game to come to him.
And the response tonight for Michael Bishop will be a little more difficult against this stingy BC defense.
Well, especially when you go down by 14 early, and now you feel like if you're a young quarterback that you have to press the issue, and that's what Mike Clemens was talking about. He was talking about let the game come to you rather than press the issue, and Bishop's got to guard against that because he's got tons of football to be played tonight.
A drop by John Avery on a little swing pass means the Argonauts are kicking again. Prefontaine. Aaron Lockett. And there's nowhere for Lockett, but penalty flags are along the sideline down there. The Sharpie 500 on the NASCAR circuit comes your way tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern on TSN, 4:30 out here on the West Coast. The Sharpie 500, part of NASCAR coverage on the Sports Network. Casey Printers will get his hands on the ball one more time. 2 touchdowns on the board for the Lions already. The Argonauts have responded with just a field goal so far.
Yeah, and the Argonauts have sort of gone through the entire season depending heavily on their defense, and their defense to turn the ball over. Now, in the last couple of weeks, those turnovers have dropped off.
Lions first down. Antonio Warren, 68 yards prior to that run, and he's stopped at about the 50.
To illustrate what I'm trying to talk about is the first 7 games of the year, Mike Clemens' squad on defense created 24 takeaways. 24 turnovers, basically. Last 2 games, just 1 takeaway. This is a ball hawking secondary. This is an active linebacking core led by Michael Fletcher. But the turnovers have started to disappear, and sometimes they come in bunches, and that's probably what the Argos need right about now to grab some momentum.
9-yard gain, 2nd and 1 for the Lions, and Antonio Warren gets the call again. It'll be a first down BC.
And they've had a couple of chances because the Lions have fumbled the ball a couple of times and got it back. The one on the special teams is not registered to the defense, but they've had some chances. And when you look at the veterans in the secondary, I mean, Kenny Wheaton is the youngest, along with Jordan Younger, and then you got Steinauer at 9 years, and out over on the corner, Adrian Smith at 11 years. So that's why those guys know how to play the football when it's in the air.
And there are sure a lot of all-Canadians through the years.
Yeah.
In this Toronto Argonauts secondary. Nice little play-action fake by Casey Printers. He escapes. He'll run for the first down himself, sliding safely across the 50, and he'll be a yard and a bit shy, maybe almost 2 yards shy of the first down. Might have been a little gun shy there after taking a couple of early hits in this one, and he went down a little bit early.
Well, what do you do when you're playing against number 81? Well, you better pay him some attention. And let's just see. There's Michael Fletcher, goes out, tries to get some contact. Kenny Wheaton jumps him immediately. 2 linebackers looking for him, Bonner and Iben. And you know that G. Simon, and he's seen a lot of that all year. I mean, he's drawn the double team, and somehow he finds a way to get open. He'll find a way tonight.
Printers picked up 8. This is 2nd and 2. And this will be close. Antonio Warren at the bottom of the pile, and the spot will be important for the Lions here.
You know, and this is why when you look at the Argonaut huddle, you know, this is going to be real close to another first down, and likely Wally Wano, if it's that close, can go ahead and go for it. But you look at the Argonaut defensive huddle, there's no panic over there. They're down 14-3, giving up some yards. The veterans in there, the Noah Canners of the world, and Michael Fletcher's, you know what they say? They say, guys, this is what our defense is this year. We've given up some yards. We give up yards along the ground. We've given up some yards and some plays through the air. And then as soon as teams think they're going to score, that's when we shut the door on them.
Just 7 touchdowns as mentioned earlier, allowed by this Argonaut defense on the season. However, the Lions have 2 tonight. So it'll be 3rd down. Inches to go.
And it's starting to feel a little like Michael Fletcher time. You talk about those big plays on defense.
Yeah, Lion.
Inches necessary. Does Printers have enough? There's Fletcher standing over the pile.
Well, I walked out in warm-up, and Michael Fletcher was talking to Barron Simpson, walked over to them, and then so I'm looking at basically 2 all-star linebackers, and I turn around and Carl Kidd's behind me, and then Michael O'Shea walks by. I'm just thinking, whoa, this is I mean, this is like linebacker land. I mean, this is all the greats, and you know, the great old veterans, and Michael O'Shea, who's not playing like an old veteran, just playing like a great football player. Fletcher told me, you know, he's never made the all-star team. Michael Fletcher.
That is difficult to believe in some ways, isn't it?
Well, I'm starting the campaign tonight for Michael Fletcher on the All-Star team because, boy, if anyone deserves to be on an All-Star team, it's Michael Fletcher, the way he flies around and hits people.
Michael O'Shea has been there a time or 2.
And that was the conversation I had with Linebackers Inc.
Under the cover, and Lyle Green will have a 1st down as this BC Lion drive continues. Green has made a couple of big plays tonight, used sparingly in the scheme of things by the Lions, but he's a very steady player.
Right, and they like what he does when he's blocking too, and sometimes that's as important as a big run or a nice catch out of the backfield. Can you protect that guy, your most important player, your quarterback?
Well, Green does a good job of that. But he's also got sure hands. Here's Casey Printers, and there's Claremont. Breaks 1 tackle inside the 20. Still going. Huge hit. Claremont fights his way inside the 5. 3 minutes to go. And then classic Claremont. Printers is on the doorstep again. In Vancouver on a Friday night, the faces of Friday Night Football at the half coming up 3 minutes from now. We're at that point. The 3-minute warning here, and the Lions threatening to hit the end zone again inside the stadium here at BC Place. Claremont.
Yeah, thanks to Jason Claremont and his big catch and run.
The catch was okay. The run was brilliant.
Yeah.
So the Lions are set up. 1st and goal to go at the Argonaut 5. Printers lobs it. He's got the touchdown. Cutolo has a couple tonight. A little long. He ran underneath that one. And Printers is making this vaunted Argonaut defense look rather ordinary in the 1st half.
Well, that was a race to the football between Geroy Simon and Frank Cutolo, who end up in the exact same place. And this receiving corps loves to compete against each other in practice, and they feel it makes them better. Watch Simon go here and Cutolo go here, and they meet in the middle. And all that Casey Printers has to do is just kind of throw it up in that vicinity, and look at them. Both there going, okay, I'll give that one to you. Pardon me?
Jason Claremont set it up with a brilliant run. Frank Cutolo finished off the play. Number 82, Jason Claremont took it 29 tough yards to set up a 5-yard touchdown toss from Printers to Frank Cutolo, his 2nd score of the night.
Yeah, Jason Claremont rolls up his sleeves and does the hard labor here. And does this remind you a little of a Saskatchewan receiver back in the old days, of Mr. Ray Elgard?
Mm-hmm.
And that right there reminds me of Ray, where he just, and that was the roll up the sleeves, do the hard digging. And then Cutolo got the glory with a nice little touchdown toss in the back of the end zone.
Maybe a little Bo Richter in there, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, early in this, when he was a rookie, he was compared to Elgard a bunch, and hasn't been said this year. He looked like him there.
Tony Miles tries to get the Argonauts back in scoring position, pays the price at the 40. Otis Floyd has made several key special teams tackles for the Lions. So 2:09 to go till halftime. And the Argonauts would desperately like to get to the end zone at least once before the half. There's time for Michael Bishop, but he struggled a little bit against his BC defense, 4 of 11 and just 40 yards.
Well, they got to give him some time. They've got to give him some time to throw.
Argonauts begin just inside the 40. 3 receivers near side. Bishop looks to the far side. He's got a target over there, and he'll get a connection with Tony Miles. First catch for Miles.
KC Printers, you see that completion percentage right back up there at 75, 162 yards, and already 3 more touchdowns to the total.
What's amazing is KC Printers is at 66% coming into this game. Bishop dancing around. Oh my, they call it a catch, and that was a brilliant play by Bishop to get to the near sideline. He's almost got a first down. He's about a yard shy on the connection. Michael Bishop here.
There is not many people in football that can do this. It doesn't happen. Guy makes 3 people miss, and from his knees going down, throws it 25 yards to the sideline of John Avery.
And John Avery digs it out of the dirt for a 9-yard gain. It's 2nd and 1. And Bishop himself should have the necessary inches to continue this drive for the Argonauts with 1:51 to go till halftime.
Athletically, you can't do it. It's just, you can name any great quarterback you want, this league or any other league, and there's not many alive that can do what Michael Bishop just did.
Bishop still in a learning process, no question about that, as far as being a starter in the Canadian Football League, but there's no question that he has the strongest arm in the league. And that is from Kent Austin, his offensive coordinator, saying that no one comes close to the air that this guy can put on a football and how far he can throw it. You saw there with Bishop throwing from his knees.
Kent Austin loves his potential. Thinks his upside is through the roof.
1st and 10 Argos. Lions charges on, and he's wrapped up and down. Well, kid. He makes a huge difference to this BC defense.
And he gets so much mileage out of his big plays, doesn't he? He makes enough of them. He makes a ton of them, as a matter of fact. But when he makes one, it's a lot of fun. I mean, he's way over here, tracks down Bishop from behind. Great speed off the edge. He's not blocked. Luke Tabeno takes the blocks, and then watch the fun afterwards. Oh, yeah, this is the swim move and the, I don't know.
First sack for the Lions on Bishop. This could be number 2. He got it away. Bishop was surrounded, and he's a little bit frustrated, as you see. Might have taken a little more than a nudge after he'd gotten rid of the ball there.
Frustrated because it's been target practice, and when Ken Austin goes in at halftime here for the Argos, it will likely be protections up front that he discusses more than talking to Bishop about how he may change things. Look at that. That's not even 1.5 seconds to throw the football. And then little push there to Carl Kidd.
Tyrone Williams tried to slow down and actually put his hands up to surrender, sort of, but he did make contact with the Argonaut quarterback. Washington laid out, couldn't get the block. Here's Lockett. Aaron Lockett steps out at the 20, and the Lions have 101 to head downfield toward the Toronto end zone again. KC Printers has engineered 3 touchdowns so far this evening.
Look at the list that he is trying to add his name to. KC Printers this season, 66.5%. He's at 75% so far tonight. So that'll bump up. There's the all-time in one season, the best ever, Tom Clements, in 86, 67.58. Printers can get him this year if he stays on the field.
Well, and Dave Dickinson wants to be back inside of a month. Printers for Claremont again, and Antonius Bonner was over to force him out.
Oh, what an absolute great problem to have if you're a head coach of a professional football team. You have Dave Dickinson, former outstanding player, who's about 2 weeks from returning to the lineup.
I said a month, and really, it could be that long, but he's hoping it's going to be less than that, even 10 days or so.
Well, John, they can be more patient with him because of the guy they got behind the center right now.
Rutolo with a couple of touchdowns. Makes another catch. He's short of the first down. Kevin Ivan made the tackle, and 47 seconds remain till halftime.
You know, and what's interesting about what I love about Printer's performance tonight is that he took some hits early in the game, and he could have had the quick flashback to the Calgary experience where he was pounded pretty hard. Took a couple of hits early, and now he's back in that stride and back in that rhythm. So now we add another chapter because he can fight through adversity and he can fight through the physical aspect of the game.
Really no downside to Casey Printers. A 23-year-old quarterback who's been able to get the job done, stepping in behind Dave Dickinson and leading the Lions to a record of 6 wins and 3 losses. Has worked very effectively for the Lions tonight. Michael Fletcher making the tackle there. And Antonio Warren obviously very happy to be back in the lineup and getting his hands on the football.
Well, yeah, and he's already almost at 100 yards. 90 yards, and then the 100-yard mark, that's the magic 100-yard mark. Steve Brattle, the offensive coordinator. Balance is what's important to help a young quarterback.
Flag is down. Cutola makes the catch and turns it into a first down, stepping out at the 50. Adrian Smith forced him out there. Verrado said to me before the game that they really wanted to run the football more effectively, and obviously a lot of teams have that in the plan but don't get the job done, but the Lions have done it so far in the first half.
Yeah, but what he has to do now, see, he's making notes now. See, and the reason he's making notes is because he's noted number 69, Freddie Moore, with the holding, putting his team now in a first and a whole bunch. And they had a chance before halftime for more points, and now this puts them in a bit of a hole.
Well, a bit of a hole, but it's technically the first adversity the BC Lion offense has faced so far this evening. Looking at 1st and 20. And Antonio Warren was the target. Now 20 seconds remain.
Yeah, and now it changes Wally Guano's thought process because, you know, he's looking at basically just his side of center field, and Steve Brattle is thinking aggressive offense, come up with more points and stretch this deficit for the Argonauts. Now he and Wally Guano probably say, they discuss this, now maybe we just kind of get out of Dodge with a 21-3 lead on our home park.
Very satisfying first half for the Lions, and by everyone's admission, the performance of BC against Calgary last week offensively was a little spotty, in spite of the fact that the Lions won the game.
Now Mike Clemens. Duncan O'Mahony, who's already had one snap go high and had some problems. Here's his choices now with 13 seconds left. You load him up, put 11 on the line of scrimmage with 1 returner, or you put 2 returners back, try and set up a return and get the yardage that way. Maybe you have a chance for 1 play and a field goal chance depending on the return. And right now he's going to load him up.
Yeah, I think the block is likely the best opportunity here, or put the heat on the punter at least. Go for the block.
They are.
O'Mahony sails this down to the 22. Tony Miles will run out of time. Almost 3 seconds to go as Derek Lewis leads the Lion tacklers this time.
Well, one of the best, if not the best, special teams player in the CFL this year. Ray Mariuz is the guy who's going to get pressure on Duncan O'Mahony. He's going to come with Michael Fletcher down the middle, Jordan Younger from the outside. There's Mariuz working real hard. Leads the Canadian Football League in special teams tackles, and that's exactly what Mike Clemens decides to do. Load it up. Maybe we get a block. get a chance for some points. Look at Ray Mary's flying around.
They'll have O'Mani thinking about it at least going into the second half here tonight. 2 seconds on the clock.
Hey, Kevin Ivan earned a starting job from special teams work, and that's exactly what Ray Marius is doing now.
A couple of great young Canadians spotted and signed by Nick Volpe from the Toronto Argonauts. There's the halftime gun, and Wally Buono is in control of the 21-3 lead.
Thanks, Wellesley. John and Glenn back for the second half in a moment. Jock?
Yes,
Here's
David.
some numbers here for you, okay?
Hit
To
me.
talk about, we all talked about how great the Argonauts defense has been, and it has been. The most points they have allowed in one single game this season has been 25, and they won that game. They were playing Ottawa that night. They won 28-25. They've allowed 2 touchdowns in their last 3 games offensively. They've allowed 3 tonight in one half against BC, and Printers and the Lions are making it look easy.
You are marvel with those numbers.
Well, it's just, you know, I'm just trying to paint the
Statistician
picture.
extraordinaire.
Will you just make a point,
Okay, when
please?
you talk numbers, I am going to talk about technique. And, you know, presence in the pocket is so important for a quarterback, and I'm going to show you how it makes a difference. And here you're going to see Bishop scrambling out of the pocket. He's got to know he's got pursuit coming from behind him, and he's simply unaware of it. And here we're going to see an example of Printers and the exact opposite. Talk about awareness. He's same situation. He's scrambling out of the pocket. He sees and senses a guy coming backside. He protects, ducks, and simply takes a sack. This is the difference between a turnover and not. This is the difference between winning games and losing games. And we saw Tommy Jones make a fumble in exactly the same situation a few weeks ago in Ottawa, lost his team the game. You've got to have that awareness, Chris, when you're scrambling out of the pocket.
That last moment of awareness in protecting the football, that is the difference between everything in football. But in this game, it gets down to basics. The offense and defensive lines are winning for the BC Lions, but what Duncan O'Mani is thinking here right now, folks, this is called football insanity 101. It's a panic situation. Like, what does he think? He's going to throw the football to Lyle Green, and then Lyle Green's going to run 109 yards for a touchdown? Just be calm. Kick the ball out of bounds. They're lucky they only gave up 3 points because that play could have got the Lions back into the game. And I'll tell you, the Lions are going to have a difficult decision because I tell you, when Casey Printers and Dave Dickinson are going to have to compete for the job, I'll go on record right now. I don't think you take Printers out. He's had success against Montreal's defense. He's having success against Toronto's defense. You stick with the guy you're hot. Comment.
Dave Dickinson sitting on the bench.
Well, what do you think? What do you think?
To me, Dave Dickinson has proven that he can be a number one. And hey, first of all, there's no such thing as you don't lose your starting job because of injury. And anyone who's heard that expression, throw it out right now, doesn't exist. But if you're playing well, Schultze,
yes,
as Dave was before he got hurt, but I think you got to get
my point is he has to get his timing back. He has to get his pocket movement back. It's like starting a brand new year for Dave Dickinson, and Printers is in the groove.
This is an extraordinary situation, though, when the backup comes in with virtually no professional experience and looks as good. He's got 23 touchdowns, folks.
Yeah,
he's just shredding the best defense. It's going to be a new league. They're going to kick him out. He's too good. Here's the Rona poll question for the night. TSN.ca, we asked you to log on and tell us at the halfway point, who do you think the top Canadian is in the league? Ben Cahoon, Kevin Ivan, or Jason Claremont? Ooh, I thought with the Lions game here, we might get more for Claremont, but it was close. But Ben Cahoon is always a pretty solid pick, I'd say.
Tomorrow on TSN.
At the half, brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. Wendy's, it's better here.
Earlier tonight, Calgary, Hamilton. Hamilton got a turnover from the Stamps off a blown punt, and one play later, DJ Flick is in the end zone, and it's 7-1. Then, Jason Lamar picks out Tommy Jones, and for the second time this season, Lamar is going to the house. He did it against Saskatchewan earlier, and now he does it against Calgary. And then, same quarter, big boy, the fullback, Julian Radlin, who's going to be a guest with us on Sunday, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Radlin's coming in here. He's going to be happy. Danny Mack was talking to Matt Dunnigan, but you know that Matt's not going to be happy with that because they lose again, and Hamilton wins their second in a row.
Well, Calgary's got some work to do. First thing I'd do, seriously, if I'm Matt Dunnigan, get myself a running game. I know he's serious about running the football. That's why he got rid of Coach Jenkins, because he didn't want to. Right. Victor Reich, I don't think, is anywhere in the same league as Troy Davis, who had another 100-yard outing.
I thought the difference in the game is Hamilton wanted it more than Calgary. You can make the excuse that Calgary came off the overtime loss to BC, took something out of them. but you're a pro because you respond game by game, and Calgary did not look good. They made a lot of mental errors.
Troy Davis, Jock, 5th time in his last 6 games he's rushed for over 100 yards.
Is that right, Mr.
Is that
Stanley?
right,
Well, hey, very quietly.
Trying to
He
impress
doesn't
Canada.
get a
All
whole
those
lot of
papers, all these papers.
Shuffle,
papers,
shuffling.
shuffle.
papers. Okay, here's T-Roy Simon. Here's the shocker. Simon with a touchdown. It's just in.
This day in the CFL, brought to you by Sport Check, proud supporter of the CFL.
August 27th, 1990, the Edmonton Eskimos and the Toronto Argonauts. Tracy Ham with a bullet pass to Craig Ellis at 23-yard strike, but the Argos come right back. Tom Porras hits Paul Mazzotti, and Mazzotti breaks 2 tackles, and he's off to the races. Toronto within 4. But it's all Edmonton in the second half. Ham looks downfield and hits Keith Wright with a perfect toss. 45-yard score. Edmonton wins it 56-36. Meantime, in our game tonight, here are the halftime numbers brought to you by Molson Canadian. I am Canadian, Jock.
Well, last week, John Avery had 73 yards rushing, and that allowed them to use play action for Bishop. Now, 17 yards rushing, that's not going to get it done. Bishop cannot use play action, and it's hurting his passing totals as well.
Let's see what the head coach of the Lions had to say. Wally Buona with our Perry Solkowski.
Coach, a 21-point first half, but talk about the tempo your defense had set for the first 2 quarters.
Well, our defense is playing very well, but also our offense, too. This is a very good defense that they're playing. I thought Casey, again, showed tremendous composure and made some big plays for us.
3 touchdowns through the air, but Antonio Warren almost has 100 yards in the first half rushing.
Well, we know that we can run the football, and Antonio, obviously, his feet, I think, are going faster than his hands right now. But, obviously, the second half, there's a lot at stake still.
Thanks for this.
Frank Catolo had a couple of touchdowns in that first half. Here's the first of them. Printers takes the hit, but delivers the ball right into his hands.
Lions have the lead. It's 21-3 for Wally Buono's gang. Here's Perry Solkowski on the sidelines.
Thanks, John. Coach, is it pretty simple? Your QB needs some time.
I think we just need to get the combination of things there. Certainly he needs some time, but I think we can give him enough time. We just got to be patient and run the offense. Have to maybe run the ball a little bit more and also move the protections around a little bit.
They had almost 100 yards on you running it. That's something you're concerned about.
What we don't want to do is give up the touchdowns. We had a couple of times where we busted coverage, and that's what we don't want to do. If we keep them to field goals rather than touchdown, we're in pretty good shape.
Mike, thanks. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Guys, back to you.
Just 7 touchdowns allowed by this Argonaut defense coming into this game through 9. And the Lions pick up 3 in the first half.
Great completion percentage for KC Printers, 185, and there's the 3 touchdowns you talked about, John, against a defense that's been very stingy all year. On the other hand, Michael Bishop, the one bad throw for an interception to Mark Washington, and hasn't had a whole lot of time. But you heard Mike Clemens say there that they want to move the protections around and get back to the run game a little bit, just like Jock Climbing mentioned. Get John Avery involved so that play action down the road now becomes something that the defense may bite on.
Well, it really is time for John Avery to shine, to step forward. They say he's at about 90% effectiveness right now, but in the first half, just 2 carries for 7 yards. So the Argonauts, to try and get the run game going, will have to get to Avery a little more frequently and maybe use a little of Michael Bishop to run the ball as well. BC Lions engineering 3 touchdowns. A couple of spectacular plays by KC Printers. Connecting with G-Roy Simon for a 43-yarder, and then back-to-back Frank Catolo for 23 yards. And Claremont setting it up for another touchdown. 23 touchdown passes for KC Printers so far this season. Second half underway. Tony Miles across the 20. Cuts it up. And Miles slowed at the 35 and dropped at the 38. Javier Glax leading the tacklers there for the Lions. So it'll be first down for the Argonauts and Michael Bishop.
Well, you didn't see any touchdowns from that Argonaut offense in the first half. You got the 5 punts, and that field goal was actually a loss of momentum because Ken Austin's squad took the ball on the Lions' 3-yard line after a botched snap from Duncan O'Mahony and only came away with 3.
Robert Baker flanks to the near side.
Let's go, Shake.
It's Baker. The catch, the first down for the Argonauts. So a positive start for Toronto as Crum ran Baker out of bounds.
And then that's just the quick passing game is basically just a glorified running play when you can do this. Just one step, look back, quick throw, and then you could hear the entire sideline for the Argonauts right there going, come on, Shake, come on, Shake. Baker, Shaker.
Shake and bake.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
First down, Toronto. And here's John Avery. Tough running for a couple of yards there, met by Brent Johnson.
Well, now some people throw their hands up right now and say, well, see, it's not working, and that's why you just forget about it. But you don't. Even though that was only a 2-yard gain from John Avery, if you keep getting that 2 or 3 yards, it still helps because now the linebackers have to go to him. And then if you want to go to play action, you can fake it and pull it out.
Avery, 92 all-purpose yards last week against Winnipeg. 2nd and 8, Bishop throwing on the run. Nice toss, and Talbot couldn't squeeze it. Andre Talbot was the target out there.
Sam Young wasn't very far away.
He closed in a hurry.
Started his career last year in Calgary, and he was there in a hurry to break on Andre Talbot. And this is the protection changes that Mike Clemens talked about. Full roll, offensive lineman sliding with Michael Bishop. Now they just have to get the receivers to beat the DBs for the BC Lions.
Aaron Lockett deep for the Lions. Noel Prefontaine standing just inside his 40. Low snap. Prefontaine digs it out and lays it down at the 6. Aaron Lockett, but a penalty flag is down as Prefontaine tried to make the tackle. Lockett has an escort. Will take it all the way. 103 yards. But the penalty flag is down near the 15.
And you can tell by the reaction of the head coach that it just may be coming back.
Well, in the area of the field where the flag ended up, the indication usually means an illegal block, and everyone is walking back to that spot now.
Well, Ray Marius is always the first guy down for the Toronto Argonauts, and if he's not involved in a tackle somehow, then probably something happened to him. There he is right here, and let's watch Kelly Lockbaum for the BC Lions as he goes down. Now, does he hit him in the back and push him past?
That's the call, so Lockett's 103-yard run goes for naught.
You know, he does. I don't know where he got it, but he does have it.
Yeah. Now, how's the squad? I mean, this is a carryover, I think, Coach, from what you guys did with the Canucks, and the city's excited about sports again.
Absolutely, and you know, you go right from the front office, the ownership, to all the people working in the front office, to the coaching staff. They're doing a lot of things right. They're identifying with the community, and there is a buzz about the BC Lions right now, as you well know, and it's great to see. The CFL's obviously having a lot of success, and it's very, very popular right now here in BC.
Now, how about Casey Printers? Like, he may look good up on a forward line.
You know what? A funny thing, last year I came to the same game. Around this time they played Hamilton, and Dickinson got them out to a lead like this, and then they brought in their second guy, and they brought in Casey. He threw his first touchdown last year, so I knew about him last year.
You scouted him out.
I did.
This is 2nd and 8 for Casey Printers. He escapes in the end zone and fires here. Almost a connection to his favorite target, G. Roy Simon. I want to talk more about Glenn the Goon in this North Vancouver hockey league.
No, enough of that. But let's talk about your team now. We don't know if we're going to have a season.
Oh, we're all hopeful that we will. You know, we're we know about as much of what's going on as the public does and as the media does. It's really in the hands of the NHL and the Players Association. All we can hope is that they do their best job to get it done.
We all have our fingers crossed now, but Marcus Naslund, there was talk about him maybe not coming back and going over to Europe, and is that all? He's back.
He's having a great start to the World Cup.
Yeah.
So, we're excited to have him back. We've got a great team, and for us, this is our time, so we want things to happen for sure.
Mark, thanks very much for joining us.
Okay,
Enjoy the rest of the game. Great to see you again. On third down, O'Mani sails it out to midfield. The Argonauts will have great field position on the return by Cunningham. He stopped just outside the 45. Argonauts in good shape here. Nice play action fake by Bishop. Look at the air on this. Soward in the end zone. He's got it. Caught it 3 times, but R.J. Soward has the Argonauts' first touchdown.
No,
he bobbled that, didn't he?
Question what the call was, John. He was going deep from the get-go. Bishop dropped back. He didn't read a thing. All he said to Soward in the huddle was, hey, you run as fast as you can. I'm going to throw it, well, about half as far as I can, which is about 60 yards. I think the guy could throw it the length of the field if he wanted to. Puts tons of air on this football, and he just lets the athlete go run underneath it. And Soward, he was, Carl Kidd was right there. He kind of distracted him, and he had to juggle it a couple times.
Third touchdown of the season for R.J. Soward, and the Argonauts have a little life all of a sudden. In this one, trailing by 11 at 21-10 now. R.J. Soward, a 46-yard reception for the first Toronto touchdown. Aaron Lockett out to the 35 on the return for the Lions, and this was a thing of beauty.
Well, what I love about this is what Michael Bishop must have said in the huddle. Okay, R.J. Soward, you're the bottle cap. You run as fast as you can, and I'm going to throw it up. And if they're playing 10 deep coverage, I don't care. We're going with this play, full speed. He dropped back, did not hesitate, did not read a thing, and threw it to number 18.
Third touchdown of the season for R.J. Soward. Had one against Winnipeg last week and one in week 1 against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Antonio Warren, the workhorse for the BC Lions offense. Jonathan Brown making the tackle on Warren there. Happy to be back in the Lions lineup after missing 3 games. And he's over 100 yards now.
Coming back, he's over 100 yards. That's part of the good news. The other is that Antonio Warren can pick up the blitz as well as any back in the backfield.
On second down, Thelwell took a hit, had the ball for a split second, but Clifford Ivory said, you're not hanging on to this one.
That can pump up a football team in a hurry. Ryan Thelwell, who made the biggest catch of the game versus the Calgary Stampeders in overtime for the BC Lions last week, is exposed a little bit on a high throw. He has to reach up, exposes his rib cage, and Clifford Ivory say, hey, if you're going to serve up the ribs, I'm going to eat them. And he's just barely got to that sideline. The entire Argonaut defensive unit jumped in the air when Clifford Ivory made that hit.
Ivory on Thelwell. Thelwell is still down at the BC Lion bench, and while he's off the field, there is a slight delay while he's tended to and taken a little farther out of the field of play. Obviously, he can't move all that quickly if, in fact, the play headed in that direction.
Well, Chris Brazel, already out of the lineup, was injured last week versus the Calgary Stampeders. Now Ryan Thelwell is banged up after the hit from Clifford Ivory. And it's a big one. It's one of those, and of course we don't wish injury on anybody and hope that Ryan Thelwell will be fine, but for a defensive back, that's one of those dream shots. The guy's reaching for the football and exposed, and you take him out.
O'Mani, and this is Chris Cunningham. Cunningham across the 30. He stopped at the 33. Nailed there by Kelly Lockbaum. Bishop and the Argos on first down. And It's Talbot with the reception, and it looks like Talbot will have the first down. Necessary yardage accumulated on the far side, and there's the indication.
So the biggest difference offensively in the adjustment from Ken Austin at halftime is rollout. Rollout from Michael Bishop. Get him moving out of the pocket, get him to the outside, and throwing on the run.
Six wins this year. The Argonauts have relied heavily on the defense to get the ball back for the offense. That hasn't happened so far tonight. So the Argos fell behind by a couple of touchdowns. John Avery stopped again.
There's the old rivals, the old college rivals. Barron Simpson, John Avery, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And that time Mississippi State got the best of Ole Miss.
It's a loss of about a half a yard.
Bulldog got the rebel that time.
Andre Talbot flanks to the far side. It's second down. Bishop stands in. He's got Talbot. Flags fly as Talbot goes up and brings it down to Sean Austin, who's had a great game for the Argonauts, making the tackle, or for the Lions making the tackle there on the Argonaut receiver.
You know, Bishop has struggled tonight, but he's done some things athletically that just, you know, it has to have you shaking your head.
Offensive pass interference. Toronto number 4. Second down repeated.
Well, Talbot's going to get called on a push-off here, but Bishop gets flushed again, and he doesn't even, you know how you say he's throwing off his back foot? He wasn't throwing off any feet because he jumped in the air, fading away and through that, and at the other end, Talbot had got the foul with the push-off. But he's done some things athletically that just make you go, wow. I mean, they just, when he throws from his knees, he throws from the air, and the zip on the ball is still there.
Penalty against the Argonauts means it's 2nd and 20. So here's Bishop releasing in a hurry. He's got Baker. And Baker surrounded by BC Lions. There are 4 of them there. The ball came loose, but the whistle had blown. Sam Young ended up with the football.
Well, it's asking a lot, and you see the tempers flare now because Robert Baker was all twisted around at the end of the tackle. No, it's asking a lot of Robert Baker to, on 2nd and that much, catch about a 7-8 yard pass and then turn it into a first down. But sometimes you have to take what the defense gives you, punt the football, and then put your defense back on the field.
Well, they get 10 yards back from that. So Noel Prefontaine will be punting from his 30 instead of from back a little closer to the 20-yard line. Lockett is inside the BC 25.
He's had one called back now.
Lockett took it 103 yards, but an illegal block overruled the touchdown. Special teams, very special sometimes. Michael Fletcher leading the way there. Toronto's Noah Cantor having a whale of a season. He leads all CFL sackers with 8 on the season, including 1 tonight. The Alouettes lead the way in the parade, followed by Saskatchewan and then Calgary. For every sack in tonight's game, Purolator contributes the quarterback's weight in food to the local food bank. Purolator, Canada's biggest courier company. In total, 3 sacks for the Argos tonight, 1 for the BC Lions. It's 1st and 10 for Printer and the Lions. G. Roy Simon. And Simon unable to find any running room after making the catch. Orlando Steinauer got to him.
Now, how about Noah Cantor's season? You mentioned with that Purolator, and Noah Cantor is a former BC Lion. In fact, he spent 5 years with the Lions.
He was here for the Grey Cup year.
That's
2000.
right. And Noah Cantor, in his 5 years in BC, as good a player as he was during that stretch, had 10 sacks during the 5 years. Already has 8 this season.
Rich Stubler told me he gets a little more freedom with this 3-man alignment up front. And that's part of the reason for his success, but he is having a superb year. It was almost Ivory in the end zone. Claremont was the intended receiver. Clifford Ivory was 1.5 inches away from taking it 30 yards into the end zone.
You know, a big hit can just ignite a defense, and all of a sudden this Argo defense is looking like the defense we've seen all season, and that's taking chances and opportunity, calculated chances at the football. It's probably the best way to say it, because they don't guess. They just take calculated risks, and then they go ahead and turn the ball over.
And here's what the Argonaut defense has been able to achieve. That's the third 2-and-out in a row for the BC Lions. So they've put a little heat on KC Printers here. And they have the touchdown. In the second half, it's 21-10. Lions leading. Tony Miles lost it, has it back. Great job to escape. He gets to the 35. Tony Miles, a couple of nice moves, but not much to show for it.
There's a late flag on the play.
Toronto 37. First down.
Michael Bishop was in there trying to get the call to find out exactly what field position he was dealing with.
Corey Salkowski on the sideline. Come on in.
Dave Dickinson, it's always good to see you, but when are you going to show up to this address and football equipment?
I think soon. I had a good day yesterday, and I'm happy with the progress. And I was just talking with Damon earlier yesterday. I'm going to try to be careful, but it'd be nice to get out there.
What are you still not doing in practice?
Well, I should probably be able to get out there and start taking some team drills next week. We're just being a little bit careful with it.
Dave, do you think there's going to be more pressure on you just because of the past couple of months of Casey to get into a groove right away when you get back?
Well, you know what? I need to be in that groove. I mean, this team needs to keep winning, and I'm just going to do what I can do and kind of let the chips fall where they may.
What's it like to be in the sidelines with this place finally full?
Oh, it's a great crowd, and they're nice and noisy today, making it tough on the Argos. And the Lions football right now, we're starting to be big time in this city, and we're happy about it.
Thanks, Dave.
2nd and 10 Argos, and they'll come up short of the first down as Bishop does connect.
Ball here, please.
Boy, they had a nice play set up, the Argos did, and missed it.
First catch for Mark Lester, sorry.
To Robert Baker, and that's the scenario that Wally Buono on the other sideline is facing, and that's Dave Dickinson's return. And then what do you do at the quarterback spot?
Well, it's a very pleasant problem, is it not?
It is the best problem you can have as a head coach, to have two great quarterbacks.
Well, two all-star quarterbacks. I mean, you have to believe that KC Printers will get votes as an all-star quarterback in this league this season, and Dave Dickinson has been there several times in his career. Flags are down as Noel Prefontaine sails this one down to the BC 30. Lockett. Aaron Lockett needs a block here. Prefontaine over to slow him down, he hopes. He does. Caught from behind. Antonius Bonner, after Noel Prefontaine ran a little interference. Flags all over the field as we look at it now. It's a 62-yard return if it stands.
Offside. BC 95. First down, Toronto.
Two huge returns. By Lockett nullified.
Yeah, but this one, an offside from Cameron Legault, that's a heartbreaker for Aaron Lockett, because the first one is hitting the back,
and there was no
everyone's
doubt about
flying around, and Kelly Lockbaum made an error in judgment on the fly. That's one thing. But to be offside before the play even starts, well, those ones, you just, as a coach, they drive you nuts.
And the Argos get a first down as a result, and they'll come close to another first down here as Tony Miles makes the catch at the 40. Well, it will be second down Toronto without question, but they're more than halfway to a first.
But then when you get the offside call, takes back the return. But not only that, you were inside of 5 yards.
Flag down on this play as well.
BC 31. First down.
Tony Miles limps to the bench, and that's basically your number one receiver. He doesn't come in number one in yards in this game, but Tony Miles is your veteran number one receiver.
Over 1,000 last year. Halfway to 1,000 this year. Bishop looks at 1st and 10. And Otis Floyd has John Avery all wrapped up. Avery still unable to escape. Not many rushing yards for Avery in this one either.
You go back to Tony Miles on the bench there, and Adam Rita this week, along with Greg Bonds, has brought in former Pro Bowler Andre Rison. And of course, everyone across the league talking about the addition of Andre Rison, what that might do with the Argos. And boy, Adam Reed and Mike Clements had nothing but good things to say about what he's done in just a week in practice.
Loss of a couple. Bishop stands in and fired behind Robert Baker.
And you see Tony Miles limp off, and that just makes Andre Rison's arrival that much more important. And what has happened, and what I understand, is that the question was, does Andre Rison come in and, the former Pro Bowler kind of think, well, this is just going to be a party and we're going to relax and have some fun, and is he going to really put the work ethic in? Well, in a week he has. He's impressed Rita, and most importantly, I think he's impressed Mike Clements. And right out of the gate, he took the entire receiving corps out for dinner, bought them all dinner, introduced himself, and said, hey, let's go to work. So he's providing some leadership already, which is what they were looking for from Andre Rison. We may see him in the lineup soon.
Well, Prefontaine sails this one down inside the 30. Aaron Lockett on the return, and not much running room there. Printers will get a chance now. One more time, The Benefactor, a new series premiering on CTV September the 13th. So look for The Benefactor, and it'll star Mark Cuban as The Benefactor on CTV in the fall.
Holding. BC 19. First down.
Falls Creek, right? Is that our view from there?
Yeah, I believe so.
Out
Nice.
the back door here.
It's like a nice night out there.
Lions will be forced to start back a little deeper in their zone as a result of the penalty. From the 18, BC first down. KC Printers moved the ball very effectively in the first half, unable to have that kind of success in the second half. That's Gerald Harris who draws into the lineup.
Yeah, he comes in for Chris Brazel. Brazel was hurt versus Calgary. And so Gerald Harris has been around a couple of years and is one of those guys in practice makes the DBs better. I mean, he's just a hard worker in practice, turns guys around, and that's why but it's a hard lineup to crack when you look at the receiving corps.
Absolutely. Claremont, Simon, Cutolo, Thelwell. Printers on 2nd and 7. Kept running, and he'll get a first down. G-Roy Simon found a way to get open.
He did, but there's a flag. And Antonius Bonner was trying to get outside and cut Printers off as he tried to escape. And he was blocked initially from Antonio Warren.
Simon will get a 15-yard gain if this stands.
Illegal contact on receiver. Toronto 13. Penalty is declined.
It will.
Major foul. Roughing the passer. Toronto 95. First down.
And all of that, they didn't see the holding on Antonius Bonner. Here it comes to the outside. Eric England goes up high. And so he gets the double call there when he goes up high to the face. And the face mask call on KC Printers.
So a 15-yard gain for Simon. It'll turn into a 30-yard net for the Lions, who are now out at the 50. 2:20 to go, third quarter. Antonio Warren has had a great night running the ball. He's outside. And that'll be another BC Lion first down. Orlando Steinauer got over to make the tackle. And Antonio Warren very excited to be back in this BC lineup.
Yeah, he is, and he gets some help up front from Freddie Moore, who just gets enough of the linebackers coming out to try and cut off Antonio Warren. Moore's in here. He's going to pull out to this side and watch him pick up the block. Number 69 right there on Adrian Smith. Just enough.
And on the following play, Warren gets 3 yards. It'll be 2nd and 7.
And Durazio, the offensive line coach, was telling me this offensive line is really starting to gel. They're starting to come together.
Printers has Harris. Gerald Harris has the 15-yard line. Another guy anxious to play a little football, drawing into the lineup for the Lions for the first time in 2004.
It's the perfect call against the defense. Watch Michael O'Shea and Kevin Iben. They're going forward. If you go forward, why not put a receiver right where the linebackers usually line up? And that's where Gerald Harris will end up. Right there where the linebackers left. I'll take it there. I got to beat one guy. Clifford Ivory, he was stumbling, and off goes Gerald Harris.
Harris with 2 catches on this drive. Antonio Warren, 4 yards there. Harris picked up 28 yards in the previous play. And Warren adds a few here. The Lions offense struggling a little bit in the early moments of the second half. 3 2-and-outs in a row, and then this drive.
Well, yeah, in fact, Rich Stubler's crew had basically shut the Lions offense down in this third quarter until this drive.
And Antonio Warren is out dueling John Avery by a bunch.
But it's hard to keep a good man down, isn't it?
Certainly is. Gets his chance. He's back in the lineup after missing 3 games. Antonio Warren. Printers look to be sacked. Found a way to escape and saves it down.
Yeah, and I mentioned it just before he did it because I knew he was going to do it. And this is the evolution of a young quarterback in a learning curve that's been so steep, and he's handled so well. So I knew he was going to throw that into row 4.
Well, exactly what he did. That's the final play of the third quarter, and the Lions will try a field goal when we return.
At the quarter, brought to you by Reebok, the only brand that hangs in every CFL locker.
That's a wild guess, but I'm thinking Wally Waddle's not going to be happy with having 165 yards worth of punt returns called back. Or Aaron Lockett, for that matter, who's trying to solidify his job as the return man.
He's picking fights on the sideline.
And Toronto's D started to take momentum away.
No, Dave, they really did, and it was the defensive backs that were really starting to take the game over. I know the long pass to R.J. Soward was the momentum builder initially, but that hit right there by Ivory. Great play. Now watch here. Steinhauer turns the play in, which means very little on the yardage. And then this here could have gone the other way as an interception. But give a lot of credit to the offensive emphasis with BC because they took it over, and it was so important to get that momentum back, John.
Yeah, Chris, BC is playing good football.
Yes.
But I think Toronto is like a hair from actually winning this football game. And I go back to a play in the third quarter, which I think was a turning point. And this play right here, where they, first of all, Michael Bishop, this is one of the most athletic throws you're ever going to see on a rope 20 yards down the field. But that, folks, is not pass interference on Talbot. David, if that's pass interference, take out that record book right there and erase about half of my catches in my career. Because if that's pass interference, and that killed them.
All of my catches in my career.
Well, the BC Lions are trying to tie a franchise record with 6 straight wins. They got 1 quarter to get it done.
Here are the stats at the quarter for Smirnoff Ice. Who knows where it'll go?
Well, it's been this way all game long. BC Lions have had the edge in almost all categories offensively, and Antonio Warren's done a nice job along the ground.
Stadium at BC Place, brimming with enthusiasm tonight. The Lions are on a nice roll as Duncan O'Mahony lines up for his first field goal of the evening, and he's got it. That's 14 straight for O'Mahony, who had such a tough start to this season. And O'Mahony is counting by tens now. He's not counting that as his 13th coming into this game, 13th in a row. He's got 10, and now he's got 4 in a row. It's just to psych himself up.
It has been quite a roll. He, however, will not be one of the guys that gets the player of the game nod.
Well, oh, there was that one little oops.
Yeah.
Cast your vote for player of the game. Rogers player of the game. Rogers Your World right now. You can use text messaging. Type in Go CFL, then type in the first letter of the team city and the player's number to cast your votes. And G. Roy Simon always deserves some consideration. Casey Printers, Jason Claremont, that wonderful run. I love that play. But the Argonauts are not finished yet. They're down by 2 touchdowns.
No, it's not over by a long shot. There's tons of time, and this Argo defense is making Casey Printers work for everything in this third quarter especially.
Absolutely, and the Argo defense hasn't chipped in with that critical turnover as yet that we have come to expect from this group of all-stars. So the fourth quarter just nicely underway after the Omani field goal. And here's John Avery on kick return duty. Across the 40, he stopped at the 45 by Jason Crum, playing against his brother Mike Crum of the Argonauts on special teams on occasion tonight.
Well, this is where, as a quarterback, especially a young quarterback in his second start in 2004, and Michael Bishop gets a chance to make a name for himself as he can find a way to get his Argonauts back in this football game. The numbers aren't real impressive tonight, but there's lots of football to be played.
Michael Bishop and the Argos just shy of the 45. Good call here, and Baker will turn it into a first down. Robert Baker forced out by Barron Simpson.
One of the things they've done in this third quarter is gone to Baker and have Robert Baker set up a couple things. They throw a few hitches early in a series, then they'll fake a hitch and go deep, and now they have to go to Baker because Tony Miles has not returned.
Argos without Tony Miles for the rest of the game, and that's why we saw Avery on kick return duty there.
Well, it was going to be a workout process, and we're going to keep that crutch away from Tony Miles. That's a bad sign, but got the leg up. Doesn't look good for his return, at least tonight.
No, he's done for the evening. Second and 10. Argonauts. BC Place is alive. Nice catch. Hanging on somehow, Mark Lester. He'll be short of the first down, however.
Yeah, he will, and this is a long field goal attempt. Noel Prefontaine's longest, 47. This would be 52. With the dead air here in the dome.
And last week he missed a couple against the Blue Bombers.
And Mike Clemens is leaving the offense on the field.
Third down and 3 to go. And the Argos tried to get out of the ball quickly for a little bit of a surprise element on the Lions.
It was going to be some kind of surprise. R.J. Soward came running over to the sideline, all upset like this grand scheme all of a sudden wasn't going to work because the personnel wasn't right.
And, well, the field goal may be a long shot, but I'm not so sure this gamble is much more than that.
Well, it's still early, and that's
third down, and
there's still 13 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, they're looking for 3 yards to get the first down conversion here. Bishop stands in and fired high. Rushed it a little bit. Andre Talbot couldn't get high enough. So the Lions take over on downs with 13:05 to go in the fourth.
The fourth quarter is brought to you by Kellogg's Vector. Vector, official food energy of the CFL. Fuel up.
Critics will question the gamble by the Argonauts on 3rd and 3 that turns it over to the BC Lions at the 45. Argonauts down by a couple of touchdowns at 24-10. 13 minutes on the clock. Antonio Warren over 100 yards after missing the last 3 games.
2002, remember, Antonio Warren was an all-star on special teams.
Great kick returner.
Yeah, another one of those guys that, you know, and it happens to so many players that they break into a league or a level, whether it be college football or the pros, and you earn your keep on special teams and then get your chance to start.
3 yards for Warren. 2nd and 7 for the Lions. Printers chased down and fired that one into the turf, looking for G. Roy Simon. There was no chance to make the connection, but he got rid of it.
Eric England, Jonathan Brown, and Noah Canner showed some frustration against KC Printers, but they're keeping at it, and they're continue to battle in that front 5 with the BC Lions. And Printers, who has time initially, it doesn't last long. Now he's forced to try and complete a real tough throw over his shoulder. It's been like that in this second half for him.
4th 2 and out in the second half for the Lions.
Hands in, boys.
But hasn't turned it over.
That's true. O'Malley's punt down at the 25. It's Chris Cunningham, and he steps out around the 36. Jason Claremont covering on the play. Welcome back to Vancouver. Looking ahead, the PGA Tour on TSN beginning September 9th. It's the Canadian Open from Glen Abbey in Oakville, Ontario. Mike Weir heads the field there at the 2004 Canadian Open on TSN.
Fitting we have a shot of water. Usually where my ball ends up when I play golf.
Bishop has Talbot. Talbot takes a hit and is stopped a little shy of the first down.
Now, I'm not going to do it because I don't think it's fair to do from our position, but it may happen to Michael Clemens. Should the Argonauts not be able to come back in this game, people may look at that gamble on 3rd and 3. The BC end of the field with 13 minutes left. And what field position change might have been had he punted the football there.
Well, the Argos still have time to get 2 touchdowns for the tie. On 2nd and less than a yard. Bishop straight ahead. Penalty markers are down, but he will have the necessary yardage.
They do have time, and the defense bailed them out because on that sudden change when they didn't get the first down, if Printers comes on, goes down the field,
96, first down,
and puts points on the board, it just really, you know, puts an arrow through the heart of Mike Clemens for that decision. But defense bails them out. 11 minutes left, still lots of time to score twice.
And the Argonauts are almost back to where they gambled. They're at the 50-yard line here. So,
and that's a lot of, that's why you don't second guess, because that's a lot of what goes into a decision like that. Your defense, how they're playing, and it's a gut feeling.
Here's Robert Baker flanked to the near side on 1st down Toronto. Michael Bishop eluding the first rush. Almost. Mark Lester had his hands on it. It would have been a superb catch had he been able to hang on.
And it would have come back had he been able to hang on, because there was a holding call behind the line of scrimmage. Almost looked like Mark Lester caught that one and then threw it out of bounds.
Obviously didn't have control, but then there's the penalty for holding against the Argonauts. Great to see the stadium at BC Place with this kind of enthusiasm again. The lower bowl almost full tonight, largest crowd of the season. To watch 2 teams at 6 and 3, and to watch the hometown Lions try and make it 6 straight wins
to tie a club record. Consecutive wins in the season.
Lions head to a bye after this one tonight. The only team in the CFL without a rival. So when you look ahead to Labor Day weekend, all the rivalries are set. Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, Toronto and Hamilton, Montreal, Ottawa, Edmonton, Calgary. And that leaves the Lions without a natural rival. So they'll take the Labor Day weekend off.
However, they have been building that one with Montreal.
Well, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, then Montreal and Ottawa don't quite make it. I'm thinking that if you look down the road, and you maybe hope that there might be expansion and a 10th team added to the league, and how about the rival
coast to
on
coast.
the other coast. Hey, wouldn't that be something?
The Halifax Schooners and the BC Lions go head-to-head on Labor Day.
And we could make that a rivalry in one fell swoop, could we not?
Well, the buzz in this city is unbelievable with the football team, and all the credit goes to Bob Ackles and Wally Buono.
And the Grey Cup coming to town in 2005. 1st and 20. Cunningham makes the catch. He gets half of the necessary yardage back. Otis Floyd has been mentioned several times tonight. He's been solid for the Lions again. And Michael Bishop.
Much better second half from Michael Bishop. Ken Austin's discussion with him at halftime obviously taken to heart. He's come out and controlled the game a little bit better. Now he needs to finish a couple of drives. He's moved the ball. Now he needs to finish some drives.
And the touchdown toss to R.J. Soward was a thing of beauty. 2nd and 10. Bishop on the run and hurried that a little bit, looking for Baker. And it's at his knees. 9:39 to go. The Argonauts are down by 14.
You know, as strong as Michael Bishop is, even he, after this game starts to wear on, you get into the 4th quarter, and if you've been on the run all game long like he has, you can see the improvement in the second half. Fatigue gets the best of everybody every now and then. And you got to think that Michael Bishop, who's had to throw on the run most of this game, is just running out of a little gas there. Needs a top off.
Noel Prefontaine. Uh-oh. Can't get it away. He'll be wrapped up. Derek Lewis. It was 3rd and a bunch. He was deep. And the coverage broke down. At least the blocking assignments did. And the Lions get another turnover. Argonauts in a deeper hole all of a sudden. Let's go down to the sidelines. Perry?
John, this is a good sign when Damon Allen has traveled cross country with his team. First of all, how was the rehab? How was the leg?
Rehab, everything's right on schedule and a little bit ahead of schedule. So, you know, I'm excited about that. And, you know, the main thing is just continue with my workouts and just look forward to getting myself ready to go.
David, what advice can you give Michael Bishop as he got ready for this game?
Well, one of the things, I just wanted to be patient, settle down a little bit. He got off on a little rough start because he's quite antsy, but you know, the main thing is the Lions always start off pretty early. They always start off pretty fast, and you know, they got ahead of us early in the game, but you know, we had a chance to get back into it, but we just haven't made enough plays offensively.
Hey, you spent 7 years in this town. This building is full tonight. What do you think of the guy who wears number 1 in their QB position?
Well, obviously he's a surprise and he's a special player, and everybody's starting to realize that. And so it's quite unique to see players, you know, come through the CFL that are like that. Because, you know, every 1 year or another, you always see somebody come out of woodwork that you've never seen before, but they're showing that they can play.
Thanks, guys.
Jason Claremont sets the BC Lions up in great field position, and then it appears that the Argonauts have a turnover going the other way. Antonio Warren put it on the ground.
Wow, they dodge a big one there, John, because the Argos were on the ropes. This is when it's a heavyweight tilt, and one boxer has the other boxer with the Bambi on ice look, and he's looking wobbly going down. They have him right here, and Antonio Warren, that same play that he fumbled early on with that jab step goes in, the ball comes out, and the Argos dodge a bullet.
Well, it came loose, and the Argonaut offense is on the field. However, the discussion continues down inside the 5-yard line.
The ball carrier's knee touched the ground, and the ball came out. It's 2nd down BC.
The Lions did not fumble. Antonio Warren was fighting it. Steinauer thought that he had the turnover.
Well, from our replay angles, it was hard to see when the ball came out and sort of trust the officials who have done this a couple times in the last 2 games now, made a call and then overruled it because they clearly indicated Argonaut football.
So it's 2nd and goal to go. The Lions are at the Argonaut 2 with a chance to add to this BC lead. And Antonio Warren's second effort. And they say not yet into the end zone with a penalty flag down.
Well, there's another flag on the field on this one.
And an Argonaut down as well. Injured Toronto Argonaut inside the 5. 7:56 to go. The Lions have a 24-10 advantage. And
Offside.
one more crack to get to the end zone.
Toronto 97.
Whoops.
First down.
3 more cracks to get to the end zone. The offside penalty against the Argonauts.
That's interesting. In Winnipeg last night, going through an experiment the officials were with instant replay. And that system, much like the NFL has, where you can review or challenge calls. And that's a good sign. And it may not be implemented this year, but it's a good sign because the officiating is one aspect of the game that has to continue to improve.
Well, unless they implemented it for the playoffs, there's no way they can implement it this year, I'm sure. And they're not certainly thinking about that.
Yeah, and if it goes to next year, that's fine. But the fact that they're experimenting with it, exploring the possibility, then
yeah, well, I think that's great.
It's a good sign because it's the league being proactive about improving that part of this game.
Injury timeout at the stadium at BC Place. The Lions lead it by 2 touchdowns, and we'll be right back. Back at the stadium at BC Place, looking ahead to the rest of the weekend on TSN Wendy's CFL Live from Commonwealth in Edmonton with the Renegades in town to take on the Eskimos.
The good news is, looks like the Argos, Eric England will be okay. He was down on the play but walked off on his own.
Bad news for the Argonauts. Offside called in the previous play, so the Lions get 3 more cracks at it from right here. And it's Printers himself, and he'll get the touchdown. Casey Printers. 1 more touchdown. That's his 7th of the season. And he's tossed for 2 more. 3 more tonight. So it's 23 touchdowns tossed. And add 7 to that, 30 touchdowns he's been directly responsible for the BC Lions.
Just threw an extra touchdown to a fan in the stands that gets a souvenir after that one. But this game for Casey Printers has not been an easy one. And teams are starting to put a little hit on Casey Printers, but he continues to battle through it. And that's what I think has been most impressive about this performance tonight.
BC number 7, down repeat.
And why this great story continues to build is because, in his first 5 starts, no one really knew a whole lot about Casey Printers, and he was kind of running around having a good time, not being hit a whole bunch. And then Calgary and tonight, boy, he's taken a bunch, and he's battled through and has his football team up in a big way once more.
Jacques Chapdelaine talks it over with his star quarterback. The offensive coordinator, Steve Barato, is actually upstairs, but a little communication going on with Jacques down there. And Casey Printers has engineered 30 touchdowns in what is his rookie season in so many ways. I mean, the opportunity to be a quarterback for the first time. He was on the list as number 3 for part of last season behind Dickinson and Spurgeon Wynn.
Remember, the BC Lions looking for win number 6 in a row, which would tie a club record. Vic Rapp's 77 BC Lions 6 in a row with Jerry Taggy. They called them the Cardiac Kids back there, and Dirty 30 Jim Young was Jerry Taggy's go-to guy.
That's when you were in the Knothole gang over at Empire Stadium?
That's when I had just brought my bag of chips and got in the end zone seats, and away I went. Yeah. In fact, I still have the Jim Young chin strap for running on the field as a kid and picking up a nice souvenir there. Old Empire Stadium in the pouring rain, I'm sure it was. But that was the Cardiac Kids, and the Lions have a chance to tie that record here tonight.
And then there's a chance to break the record. And when you look back through this BC Lion franchise in the years beginning 50 years ago, 1954, hard to believe they haven't won more than 6 in a row. But they have the chance to do that against the Renegades in a couple of weeks if they hang on here tonight to a 31-10 lead. And here's John Avery on returns, lost the ball, but he had made contact with the ground.
Yeah, he was down, no question. Well, Michael Bishop was down by 14, has been for most of the game, but was down by 14 with 13 minutes to go. And a couple of plays have been the difference because he still had a chance to bring this team back. Mike Clemens decided to go on 3rd and 3. We're going to see another quarterback.
Scott Krause throws into double coverage, looking for Cunningham. Krause has seen very little duty, 7 of 8, 82 yards with a couple of touchdowns in the preseason.
He gets a chance to sort of do the old reverse mop-up. And it's kind of like a mop-up situation. If you're the winning quarterback, you come in as a backup. But obviously, they just feel to get Scott Krause a few reps out there may help him down the road.
2nd and 10. Argonauts. Krause almost has it stripped. And he's tossed to the turf at the 40-yard line. There were Lions all around. And Dante Booker was the lineman who got him there.
Yeah, the Lions just, they get Scott Krause in the game, and it's like Krause season because they're going to send everybody. There's Otis Floyd. There's Derek Lewis. Look at Barron Simpson's over here. Now let's see what those 3 guys do. Yeah, they blitz. Carl Kidd comes from the left. He goes. Look at the jailbreak that was. You get fresh meat in there behind the center, and you go ahead and try and chow down.
On 3rd down, Prefontaine. Aaron Lockett for the Lions. Retreating to the 15, turns the corner. Prefontaine over to force him out. So the Lions will look at another quarterback before this is over as well.
Another good decision. There's the mop-up. KC Printers, fine day at the office once more. This time in the last couple of games, he's had to face and get through some adversity.
Sacked 5 times by the Stampeders in the last game, which was last Saturday, and 3 times by the Argos tonight, so that's 8 sacks in 2 games.
Well, I mentioned the officiating and how some of these moves are to improve that situation, and that's an ongoing process. That is something that the league is always addressing and reviewing, and the officials are always reviewed as they meet for an extended period of time again here tonight with 5:45 left to go. And the overall quality of the game is always something that the Canadian Football League continues to try and improve.
Final numbers for KC Printers: 16 of 26, 257, 3 touchdowns. The first 2 were relatively easy. They came in the opening half. They struggled a little bit in the second half, but still had 2 to Cotolo in the first half, and the first one to G. Simon, a 43-yarder. And then Printers himself into the end zone on a 1-yard plunge. Spurgeon win for Antonio Warren. He has a couple.
You know, when you look at this BC Lion football team, as Wale Guano continues to try and build it, he looks like he's found his running back in Antonio Warren. He's certainly good at quarterback. The one missing piece of the puzzle may have been that breakaway returner. And Eric Lockett's numbers at the end of the night may not reflect that from him, but he's had 2 biggies called back, and he may be that final piece.
Special teams a concern. They've been looking for that man. Lockett has played a couple of games now and made some plays. Cutolo, 2 touchdowns on the evening. A lot closer to a first down when he made the catch than when he finished. His little spinorama move there. So Spurgeon Wynn heads to the sidelines as the Lions get set to kick it away. O'Mahony comes on.
You always want to sort of measure yourself as a football team against the best in the league, and the BC Lions did that when they played Montreal, snapped their winning streak. The only team to beat Montreal this year. They also wanted to have this test versus the Lions. Remember, the last time these 2 teams played was in that crossover semifinal into the East, and Toronto beat them on that night.
Dave Dickinson was missing from the lineup. Argonauts went on to the Eastern Final against the Alouettes for the 2nd straight year and lost there. Chris Cunningham returning for the Argonauts. And a long run for 1. Krause at the controls for the Argonauts. He has Chris Cunningham. And Cunningham should have a first down, forced out by Brent Johnson.
Michael Bishop will continue to have to answer to the skeptics who, coming into that game against Winnipeg, were wondering if Bishop could lead the troops. And he showed it in that one with 300 yards and almost 100 along the ground, but faced a pretty good BC Lion defense here tonight.
Krause, sideline pattern, and he'll get another first down. To Robert Baker this time. Bishop, with that performance against the Blue Bombers, is named the Offensive Player of the Week.
But it's what have you done for me lately? And
in the last 6 days, he hasn't been able to answer as well as he did against the Blue Bombers.
But John, he did some things in this game tonight that you can understand why Mike Clements is so high on him, why Adam Rita. Adam Rita brought him into BC, you mentioned earlier. Put him on the neg list when Adam Rita was with the BC Lions.
He was going to be the heir apparent to Damon Allen.
That's right.
At that point in time.
That's right. And then,
out here, though.
Yeah, and then he lost him to the National Football League when he went to the Patriots, and he backed up Drew Bledsoe in training camp, and he also played behind Brett Favre, learned a lot from Favre.
Krause looks to run.
Apparently, and I don't know the guy, so I'm not going to sit here and judge, but my conversation with him didn't learn a whole bunch from Drew Bledsoe. And kind of when you look from the outside looking in, for some reason that's not surprising. I don't know why, but Brett Favre, he said, was a huge help to him. Similar styles, both running, strong arm quarterbacks. Brett Favre, of course, I'm certainly not comparing Michael Bishop in his pro career to Brett Favre. But the bottom line is he learned a ton from Brett Favre and has from Damon Allen. And you can understand when you see him athletically why the coaches love him and why Ken Austin thinks he can be the guy. But it's still going to take some time.
Well, he's got a howitzer for an arm, as he showed on the touchdown that he threw to R.J. Soward to get the Argonauts one and only majors so far tonight. 3 minutes to go at the stadium at BC Place. 2:48 to go at the stadium at BC Place. Here is the game story brought to you by Sport Check.
Well, all the fans here, and it was a great crowd, got a chance to watch and see what KC Printers can do. And it was a tough run for Printers. He was banged up a bunch, but still threw 3 touchdown passes.
Antonio Warren emerged for the BC Lions after a 3-game absence, and I thought the catch by R.J. Soward was something for the highlight reels as well. Game story for Sport Check, proud supporter of the CFL. Spurgeon Wynn mopping up for the BC Lions now, and the Argonauts get to him and mop the turf here with him just a little bit. O'Shea and Fletcher combining on the tackle there.
And the Argonauts were 4-0 coming into this one against the West, and just hit a roadblock.
Argonauts will move to 6 wins and 4 losses. Still a comfortable position on second spot in the East, with the Tiger Cats closing, however, on that victory over the Calgary Stampeders this evening. So the Tiger Cats are 1 win behind.
And Ottawa still to play in Edmonton on Sunday.
And they could move into that 1 win behind spot, with Montreal well out in front at 9-1. In the West, we're looking at the Lions hitting the break with a record of 7-3. So that'll make for a nice little celebration over the Labor Day holiday for Wally Buono's team.
Well, that's the thing, you know, good feelings and positive thoughts, they can grow and turn into more positive thoughts, and so can the opposite. So that's why when you have that longer break and longer time to think about something, you want them to be positive thoughts, and the Lions have that as they go into their break.
You know, I'm not so sure that the Lions were all that positive about the way they played last week against Calgary. The Stampeders had an opportunity to win a game from the front-running team in the West, and both the offensive coordinator and the head coach suggested that the Lions on offense last week were a little spotty at best, but managed to get the job done and win over Calgary.
Wally Buono said that, you know, good teams find sometimes ways to win that sometimes you can classify as ugly, or ways to win with different adversity facing them, and the Lions are doing that.
And the Lions, as you say, will feel a lot better going to the break after a game like they have played here tonight. Cunningham stopped at about the 50-yard line, and leading the way, Mark Pilon. Well, time for the Gladiator, because it is Wendy's Friday Night Football. Here's one Gladiator.
In the battle, Maximus said, "Stay with me and hold the line." I'm sure at points Casey Printers has said in the huddle, "Stay with me, guys, and even though I've been pounded tonight, hold the line and we'll be fine." And after being hit a bunch, Casey Printers still stands in there with poise and throws touchdowns, scores touchdowns, and wins football games for the BC Lions. There's our Gladiator tonight.
Sacked 3 times in total in this one tonight. Krause at the controls for the Argonauts, running for a first down, and meet Baron Simpson. Scott Krause, Casey Printers, the Gladiator, with 3 touchdown tosses, and one himself, as we showed you just a second ago, on the season. 7 rushing touchdowns for Casey Printers, 23 passing touchdowns, adding in the 3 from tonight. That's a total of 30 touchdowns engineered by Casey Printers.
Yeah, but those numbers, when it comes to Gladiator, don't mean anything to me. What I thought was impressive with Printers was how he fought through the physical aspect and the violence of the game of football. Something he hasn't faced other than the last 2 weeks a whole bunch. He took a pounding tonight, and he didn't get rattled. He stood in the arena. He took on the Lions, and he took on whatever came through those doors. And it happened to be the Toronto Argonauts defense, the most stingy defense in the league coming in, and he put 31 on them.
Cunningham taking a pass and losing a couple of yards.
Baron Simpson limped off after that long Scott Krause run. Baron Simpson made that tackle, and this is tough on coaches. You hope that Baron Simpson is not hurt. That's another former Gladiator, by the way. And based on that alone, I'm sure he'll be back. But
okay. Scott Krause runs again.
But as a coach, you just hate to lose a guy with the game well in hand. And it's been a long night. Played very well in the middle of that defense, Baron Simpson, as he does every single night. And kind of limped off there, so hopefully he'll be okay.
Time to ask a question or two about John Avery, the big offseason signing for the Argonauts. Still not 100%, obviously. 5 rushing yards. 5 rushes for 7 yards on the evening, so the average isn't very good at all for John Avery, and they weren't able to count on him to get the running game going again tonight. So I don't know when he will be a big part of this Argonaut offense.
Well, when Avery has been hurt, because he's been hurt, I'm sure that Ken Austin, who is dying to work more plays into the game plan with Avery involved, has just got to get the green light from both Avery, the medical staff, and Mike Clements. And then Avery becomes the feature guy. He was the feature guy in 2002 in Edmonton, and that's why he had all those yards, and he's a guy you can feature when he's healthy. So if he is healthy now it allows Ken Austin to finally say, okay, look, is the injury gone or not? And if it is, now you're part of the game plan, because he just didn't get enough touches tonight. And again, it just looks like John Avery's not a big part of the game plan yet because of that injury.
Well, they say he's 90%. Austin himself said that Avery should not have been performing in at least the first 3 games of the season, that Avery, because of the publicity and the contract and the deal that he did sign, rushed himself into the lineup for the Argonauts. But he wasn't available for Austin tonight. And again, the Argonauts fell behind by a couple of touchdowns, and they had to throw the ball a little more.
Which is courageous for John Avery.
No question.
But it's similar to what Dave Dickinson did with the Lions. And if you rush back when you're not ready, as courageous as it may be, sometimes it can set you back a little bit.
Into the final 9 seconds as the BC Lions tie a franchise record with 6 consecutive wins. There have been other Lion teams that have won 6 in a row, but not all that many looking back through history. So this is quite an accomplishment, Glenn, for the Lions to win 6 straight games after what we saw in the early going this season, a bit of a shaky start.
And they do it in front of a basically a sellout crowd at BC Place Stadium, and this Lions story in this city continues to build.
Argonauts head home and will prepare for the Labor Day clash with the Tiger Cats.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. Wendy's, it's better here. By Molson Canadian, I am Canadian. By Rona, the how-to people. And by Rogers, your world right now.
Our next game is on Sunday. Wendy's CFL Live. The Week 11 schedule wraps up in Edmonton. The Ottawa Renegades struggling a little bit. They'll be in Edmonton, where it's always tough for the road team. The Eskimos won last week. The next edition of the TSN Sports Center comes your way with John Liu and Holly Horton. It's coming up at 2 a.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. Pacific. The player of the game, as voted by you, the Rogers player of the game, is Casey Printers with 56% of the vote. Surprise, surprise. The kid does it again, and the BC Lions have won 6 in a row. On behalf of our entire crew, this is Dave Randolph saying thanks for watching. You are watching TSN, Canada's sports leader.